Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Monoxide Podcast. I'm your host, Harris, a.k.a. Monoxide, man of many automotive aspirations, and I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Gun and Garage, Dan. I stopped saying Mr. at the beginning of that. People are going to get confused.
No, I mean, that's okay. Somebody came up to me at Heydays this last weekend, and he called me Mr. Gun at Garage. Recognized just my voice. He doesn't watch it. He listens to the podcast, and I was just talking to my wife, trying to buy a helmet for my kid. They just wandered up and said, hey. So shout out to you, man. Thanks for listening.
So today we are, is this technically Chicago or are we outside Chicago?
We're outside Chicago. People in Chicago get really
touchy on that?
Yeah, hot and bothered about that. It's like, yeah. So we're in Lamont, Illinois.
That's fair. Like in Minneapolis area, we're just like anything within 50 miles.
You just say the cities.
The cities, yeah.
The cities.
Yep, it's a nice get out. But today we are down in Illinois, I guess. It's cooler to say Chicago, man.
It is, yeah.
But we are down in Illinois. We're hitting a few podcasts down here, and the first up is we're talking to some NitroCross guys, Alastair Scully, and then Patrick Gruszka.
Yep.
Did I nail? I nailed
That's
it.
perfect.
Perfect.
I've heard worse. Trust me.
Gruszka.
Dude, 10 out
Gruszka's
of
a great
10.
one. I love it when people say that.
Yeah, we're doing the last name thing again.
Yeah.
And
So-
you got it right, and we're still doing it.
I know it's perfect.
I know.
So I think. So you reached out to me a few months ago, Alastair.
Yeah.
You said like a cousin of yours or something listens to the podcast, and you know I've known about you for quite some time, and then just by name.
Well, we've been longtime mutual Instagram followers. Like
Yeah,
I've always seen your stuff. I don't know if you've always seen my stuff, but
Yeah.
I've been following you for years from back in like the Crown Rally days.
Yeah, dude, way back. I remember when we launched from Crown Rally in Chicago for Crown 8. You weren't on that one, but that was my first Crown, so that was kind of when I got involved. But nonetheless, we started talking. You asked me, like, do you know what NitroCross is? And I'm like, no. Just because that's not our world, right? Me and Dan are car enthusiasts, right, where we do mostly street car stuff, right? We're starting to get more involved with various aspects of the car community, whether that be road course stuff, whether, for example, like IMSA or whatever, and just a variety of things. But NitroCross and rallying and all that stuff is just so out of our niche that we're used to. So when you brought it up, like, would you even do anything like this? I'm like, yeah, I want to learn everything about this. So this past weekend, I was watching the first weekend, which was down in, was it Richmond?
Richmond, Virginia. Yeah.
Dude, that was so cool. It's just, what's the handle? Cars That Fly? Is that kind of like the main?
Cars
Tracks
that
that
fly,
thrill.
tracks that thrill. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys, do me a favor, introduce yourselves, introduce what NitroCross is, and we'll kind of go from there.
Ladies
Wanna rip this
first.
one okay. Yeah, my name's Alastair Scully. I'm driver of the 191 car, NitroCross Next Evo, and 191 in the American Rally Association as well. I drive for a team called Green APU, which is where we are today. We're in the race shop, having a bunch of fun, and super stoked to have these guys here. So yeah, we drive the cars that are behind us.
Which, by the way, these cars, and we will get into these cars.
Yeah.
Like,
We got to talk tech specs. I'm sure a lot of people want to know.
before we introduce Patrick, these hatchbacks, just, these things are crazy. You were showing us like under the hatch. It's just, it makes no sense. So these things make like, 550 horsepower. They got like a boost mode. Again, all these little things that I was looking up via Google to learn about this, because it's just, it's deceiving.
Well,
to say
they're
the least.
purpose built for the series, so we kind of have some design say and some things like that, which really makes it cool. Because you get a bunch of crazy drivers in a room, and all of a sudden they come up with the wildest ideas for building cars and tracks and things like that.
Well, you guys, so when you have these jumps, right? How big are these jumps? Again, this is, street car guy. I've been airborne in a car before, but not quite like you guys have. And in much scarier ways, actually.
Yes. So Salt Lake City, I think, has the biggest jump for us right now. So we're actually not allowed to hit the gap jumps. I think NitroCross thinks we're a big brand risk right now.
We're working on it.
We're working on it.
We're trying in Richmond.
We are trying to convince him to hit the big gap jumps, but the jumps right now that we hit are probably 90 foot the biggest from takeoff to landing. The biggest gap jump that we have right now is in Salt Lake as well, which is 135 feet from takeoff to landing.
That's just, that's basically Dan every time he goes through the Lowry Hill Tunnel.
And it's every lap too, which is the coolest part.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, you have to do this once. Like, no, we go out there and we'll run a session of 6 laps, and we will hit it one or more jumps every single lap, which makes it really exciting.
Yeah, and these hatchbacks behind us have to put up with those forces that you impact and take on every single time. So, I mean, it's a testament to what they are, right?
So you're Alistair's teammate, or you guys are teammates rather.
Yeah.
So I guess you should introduce yourself as well. We kind of had a little.
Yeah.
Side part.
So my name is Patrick Gruszka. I race number 17 for the Green APU team in the next Evo class for NitroCross, as well as the number 243 car for American Rally Association. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be this guy's teammate. We're having a blast.
You guys
We do
party a lot or
of fun
what?
together.
Do we party a lot? More than we probably should, but
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
but it's very civil partying because we're always analyzing things. It's a very business casual type of partying. So
Well, at the end of the day, we're athletes, kind
Business
of.
casual partying. Dude, we are totally calling that this entire
Yeah.
trip to SEMA. We're going to call it business casual.
I mean, you have to be honest with
It's
yourself.
socializing, right?
It's socializing.
Yeah,
You-
absolutely.
It's networking. It's
There
really
is
important.
there is
Yes.
never a dull moment when you go out and you sort of with the team, and especially when we go out, right? We do a lot of maybe not stupid shit, but stupid stuff, but things that we shouldn't do. So like last time we played rock paper scissors and we ended up in Las Vegas at the NitroCross HQ. But that's a story for
And
later,
then
I
even
guess.
better in a room with Dana White for a few hours. which
Yeah,
is
and then taking
more
over some of Dana's
unexpected.
time and sitting with him for 3 hours when it should have been 15 minutes. Hello, goodbye. So that's pretty cool as
That's
well.
usually how it goes.
Are you the youngest guys in this? Are there guys younger than you, same age? Is like, what's the oldest guy? What's the youngest guy?
No, so there's actually people younger than us. So he's actually pretty old, believe it or not. You
Okay.
know,
I'm
old for this, yeah.
Jesus' Last Supper, yeah, it was his party. So he was hanging out with the good old boys back
No, it
then.
was my party when they turned water to wine.
Yeah. So I'm 21. Alistair's 23? 24.
I know.
Jesus, you're
I need
old.
a walker, right?
I know, yeah. So we're probably one of the mid-packers right now. The youngest is probably 16 in the side-by-sides, if
Okay.
not younger.
Yeah.
Okay.
14, actually. Micah Block was competing as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
So some young
And
competitors
he's been
out
doing
there.
it for a year. So he was 13 last year, and he was doing the side by side. Because the nice thing about Nitro is we have a few different classes. So when you come to a NitroCross weekend,
Well, before you get into that, maybe you should describe what NitroCross is as a whole, right? And then we can get into the individual class, because there's a
can
lot
do
of classes.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, good point.
So first of all, give us like when it was created, who it was created by, and then let's just go from
yeah.
there.
So the background of NitroCross is it's the brainchild of Travis Pastrana, and as everybody knows, Travis, he's a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
We love him, but he's crazy.
First man to jump out of an airplane without a parachute on, just like to mention. So he's designing our tracks that we race on.
And so yeah, he was rallying and he was doing his motocross stuff, and he decided, let's combine these things and make rallycross, which isn't really popular in the U.S. Let's make it crazy. Let's put it on steroids. Let's make 135-foot gap jumps, right? Let's have cars going over and under at the same time and almost hitting one another, and let's make a spectacle. And that's exactly what NitroCross is. It is, we race basically on motocross tracks. The most that we'll have is 50% asphalt. It's a lot of dirt, a lot of big jumps, a lot of just crazy action-packed. And the way that the weekends are set up is more like a motocross weekend rather than a typical racing weekend. If you look at a series like IMSA, there's one race, right? We have heats and we have semifinals and we have finals, and then you have one on Saturday, one on Sunday. So
Lots of action.
lots of action. There's a bunch of different classes too, and there's action in every single one of them. I mean, there's never a dull moment at these races, which is the coolest part about it. You go there, and I don't know, how would you describe the atmosphere?
I mean, the best way to put it is it's a festival. At the end of the day, we're here to put on a show for the fans. So no matter if you come there by yourself, with your family, there's always something to do. There's bands playing at all corners of the field. I mean, you have side-by-sides,
Lots
Baja
of drinking.
Bugs. Yeah, Baja Bugs, Class 11s competing. I mean, come on, how cool is that?
the Baja Bugs are awesome.
Yeah,
Aren't
the
those
Van
things
Prix.
sweet?
You have the Van Prix where they take minivans, strip them out, and have no airbags going over the same jumps that we go in with the groupies and the next Evo. So it's some crazy stuff that you get to see.
So the first question that comes to mind, right, especially as I'm a listener to some sort of, like, if somebody is on their way to their day job right now, they're thinking, are you crazy? Is there a level
Absolutely.
of craziness that you have to do something like this?
I mean, you're like, if you put yourselves in our shoes, we're strapping ourselves with harnesses, 6-point harnesses into metal tin cans with a couple of bars protecting us and
And
going
some carbon fiber.
And that's
And
carbon
lots of
fiber
car-
and Kevlar. Don't
and
forget the
carbon
Kevlar part.
yeah.
And we're going 120, 130 miles an hour. Maybe not that fast, but definitely in the 3 digits down around these tracks. So
I don't think we've actually, because the cars that you guys see behind us are brand new, and Richmond was the first. I mean, we got our ECUs in Richmond, right? So we didn't test them, we didn't do anything like that. I don't know that we have a top end any data on what the top end is actually like. But I'd bet it's all of 115, 120.
Yeah, so I know it in kilometers. It's 175 kilometers. I know we're Americans over here, but goddamn.
Hey, what is that in freedom units?
Yeah, what is that?
Anybody know?
No, I mean, no.
No, but it's at least
90 range.
Yeah, it's at least 100s. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I think 185 is 110. So I say 105, 106.
Well, we just lost everybody outside of the U.S. for our listeners.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Sorry, folks. I didn't mean to offend anyone, but I know nobody knows what the fuck a kilometer is, and I don't. For sure.
We've got some overseas listeners.
Really?
So yeah,
It's about
absolutely.
20% nowadays.
Well, for those guys, I like
Nice.
my tea in the harbor.
So, explain what these cars are to us, right? Because I'll be honest with you, even after talking to you guys for an hour, I'm still not entirely sure of what they are.
They have
Oh,
Ford
you've seen
engines
them.
in them, Harris. They have Ford engines in them. I just want to put that out there.
They do.
They do. They have the new Mustang 2.3 engines in them.
Yeah.
They're designing what, Sweden?
They're designed, yeah. So they're actually
Built in Sweden.
Yeah, they're designed in Sweden, built in Turkey, I'm pretty sure,
Mm.
and sort of they are indeed by the OMSE boys, which are world renowned. I mean, they did the first Gymkhana cars for Ken Block and Ford. They've been doing tons of stuff with Honda, HPD, some crazy cars out of there for supercars, different sort of class back in the day that used to compete in the global rallycross days, if anyone remembers in America. But they have tons and tons of experience. Came out with the supercar lights, which is sort of what these came out of. So pretty much these cars were a kit that was transformed into the beast behind us. And they're all pretty much the same. The frame is just one sort of like how do you explain it?
It's a tube frame.
It's a tube frame, yeah.
It's a tube frame.
Yeah, so it's a tube frame that was used in a naturally aspirated car, and then it was sort of transformed into the all-wheel drive, turbocharged beast behind us right now. So it's awesome.
Last year when we raced these things, they had, 300? They made
320.
320. And they were, NA 2.4 liter, and they had a sequential still. So it's rear engined, SODEV sequential, all-wheel drive, which rear engine and all-wheel drive typically, unless you're talking about the 911 turbo, don't really go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the car control and car handling is sort of like really backwards because you have all this weight in the back, and you sort of have to like come to learn how to power the cars. And now with an extra 150 horsepower, the front end lifts and you can barely steer them. But there's things that you can do to sort of help mitigate that. And
Well, it's cool for spectacle too when you see that front end lift.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's
now we
awesome.
got a turbo, so we have ALS.
Yeah.
So it's just wah, 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 all the time.
All the
So
right noises.
For the fans, the top class is an electric class. Well, for the fans that like the emotion and the sound of a, just crazy jacked up, high horsepower car, it doesn't really do it for them. Now, those cars make up for it in the action that they have on track because they're always hitting one another and all this. And it's a lot of great tech that's in that car. But for the fans that really love the sound and the smells and the emotion, this is the car. Because there's flames kind of coming out of them all the time. They're insane. They're super cool.
So can you do some stuff to adjust in the air like they do in motocross where you can hit the brakes and the inertia and the wheels will kind of bring you down and
He
Actually,
can
did that.
actually testify to that quite greatly because he did a lot of that at Richmond.
I did. So, me jumping, I'm just fine with it. Fine in the air. The aerial awareness is there, which I thought was going to be a big hurdle when I got into this. And it wasn't. But what is a challenge for me as a driver is any jump where there's a corner after it. And a lot of people will, a lot of drivers will say, I don't struggle with anything. That's a big struggle for me. I'm happy to admit that one. There are plenty of photos of me going, nosedive because there's a corner right after it. And the reason is because I'm like, there's a corner. I spot it in the air, and then I go to lift for that corner or touch a brake for that corner. It brings the front end right down. So in Richmond this past weekend, we had a jump with a corner right after it. And we show up to the track of our second day, and they had moved the apex of that corner back towards the jump a good, 30, 40 feet. So it was like right there. So that in my head even more made me think, it's right after this jump. Well, first lap out, it was qualifying. And I have the clip. I'll send it to you guys so we can overlay it. We go out for qualifying, and my out lap, I take the jump, and I was thinking in my head from the day before, I go, it's third gear flat. Well, it wasn't third gear flat. It was third gear with a checkup right before it. Take it third gear flat at red line, get in the air, go, I'm going to land like 10 feet past where I need to land. This one's going to hurt. lift off the gas, touch a brake, nosedive. And all I can think is I'm looking straight at the ground in the air. I'm like, oh, this is how you go end over end in a race car. Just somersault like that. And thankfully we didn't, but we did destroy the entire front end of the car. And I hadn't even done a lap of qualifying yet. So we had to go, and I had to qualify with the whole front end torn off. The hood was popped up. I could only see like out of one little corner. And so I'm going to the banks flat out, 6th gear, going, okay, I know the car's not right. I know a tire's rubbing. Hopefully we don't pop it, because that would hurt.
Yeah.
And I can't see anything. So we're just going in blind, just, cranking this thing it flat out on the limiter in 6th gear. And it was an interesting experience, I'll tell you that much. Not one that I need to relive.
So how do they score this stuff? Like, how are you? So it's still a race. You're qualifying, you're doing all that stuff. Is it timed from start to end, or is your where you land, how you land in the air, all that kind of stuff is all part of how they?
Well, it's a race.
Yeah,
so we're door to door.
Yeah, we're door to door.
Yeah.
And so we qualify for positioning for the first heat, right? But after the qualifier, it really doesn't mean too much for us. So you qualify, that dictates where you start in the heats, and then it's game on, door to door action all the way to the end.
Okay.
And then we're position based up until the final. Whoever's first across the line wins it.
Nice.
Which was awesome. So I grew up Mopar, right? So I'm super happy that the Hornets are doing something. Even though it's not
Dodge is
traditional.
cool. It's cool having Dodge there.
Even though it's not like a traditional, like, oh, we got, Hellcats and, even Vipers, from, the Comp Coupe days and all that. It's just awesome to see my childhood back in motorsport. Because, they pulled out a NASCAR. It's like, oh, just when I started watching. It's like, so.
Well, this is actually really cool to mention, because now, we have to sort of explain the whole reason we're in Richmond. So NitroCross and NASCAR have come to an agreement, and they're sort of working hand in hand to utilize the NASCAR tracks for the NitroCross venue, which is really something awesome to see, because the NASCAR infrastructure as a whole is awesome. So Richmond for us was the first time ever doing that, where we sort of put in the dirt jumps and everything that Travis envisions on a NASCAR track. And I mean, the NASCAR asphalt is like holy turf. You can't touch that. So I can't even imagine if we offended or sort of overstepped a little bit. But I mean, it was a cool spectacle to see. I mean, at the end of the day,
truckloads of dirt coming
Number
in. They were
one-
probably like,
Yeah.
oh, what are you doing to our holy Richmond, right?
yeah.
Number one beer drinking sport in the United States. So you guys are trying to be number 2. Is that?
No,
what
ice
I'm-
fishing
yeah.
has got to be number 1.
Well,
Come on,
yeah,
we're from
I
the
guess,
Midwest.
Yeah.
There's only so much ice in the United States. I think about it all the time when I think snowmobiles. Like, they're only selling them to a handful of states. That's it.
Yeah.
So-
Just us drunk idiots up here.
Absolutely.
Going, yeah, bar crawl on the sleds. Hell yeah.
Yeah, so it was cool to see NASCAR and NitroCross come to an agreement. It's all thanks to Dana White. So Dana then purchased NitroCross from Thrill One as a whole from Travis Pastrana and company. So it's really cool to see Dana's involvement with his sort of entertainment background with the UFC and slapboxing and everything that he really built into truly an empire. And now sort of bringing that sort of aspect into NitroCross. So I think it's the next big thing.
When did he acquire it or purchase into it? Any
I
idea?
think there was,
2 years ago?
a few years ago.
Okay.
No, it's relatively fresh. I mean, the rumors started coming out a little bit ago, and I think maybe the mid of last season, so mid of 23 is when it started to come out.
Well, that's the exciting thing, right? Because obviously, having seen what he's done with the UFC and then now, again, with slapboxing, it's taken off. I think if there's somebody that's going to push an extreme sport, I think it's going to be that guy.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yes. And we got the opportunity and the privilege to sit down and chat with him for a couple of hours, and he sort of explained his vision for what he sees NitroCross becoming. And
Are you able to share any of that, or
I don't know. I mean,
let's not get
All I
you
know
in
is
trouble.
that there's a lot of big things. I can say that. We can say that,
Let's not
NitroCross
overstep any
is,
NDAs.
yeah, I don't want to do anything that'll get me in trouble with Dana, right?
NitroCross is the sport to watch. I'll tell you that much. With all the things we have coming, even the changes that have been made from the end of last season to this season, I've just been astonished by. It was great last year. It's even better this year.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's only going to keep getting better. You've got a great team, great promoters behind it, who really are going to stop at nothing to make it a one-of-a-kind fan experience, whether you're watching it live and free on Rumble or whether you're there in the stands, cheering for your favorite driver. This is the Fertitta brothers and Dana's involvement in motorsports, and they're not going to half-ass this. They don't half-ass a damn thing.
Right.
And it's something for us as drivers to bet on, right? Like in racing, if you're going to go be a pro driver, you have to figure out where that's going to be. And you're going to spend a lot of money, work really hard for sponsors, media, everything you need to do as a driver to go and do that, and years of your career. So wherever you go, you need to bet on it, right? And it's easier to make that bet when you have a series like NASCAR that's more established. Well, we're not established, right? Like we are in the process of becoming an established series.
You're figuring it out as you go, kind of.
Yes.
Right. And so to have that backing for us is, people who are putting in, this is no small endeavor, right? Mm-hmm. People who put in a lot of time, effort, money, everything into it. It makes us proud and makes us excited for the future. And we know that this is where we want to be. So it's what the fans should want to watch too, because it's going to be even better.
So one thing that comes to mind, right, is, and we'll start with you, what makes NitroCross special?
What makes it special? That's a good question to
Both
ask.
from a competitor standpoint and from a spectator standpoint.
Okay. I think it's easier to answer from a spectator standpoint, mainly due to the fact that, I find it really cool. So I don't know how anyone else wouldn't find it really cool. You're pushing cars to a new limit that hasn't really been seen before. Travis Pastrana is known to be a man of first, right? So whenever he comes to a track, he's always like, what can we do to make this even cooler, crazier, and more badass? So you're always in for a good show. And like I said before, if you're not there for watching the cars and you're there with your family, you get to engage with the drivers in the paddock because it's really an open format where the pits and the sort of spectator areas are meshed one in together. So you get to meet all the cool guys like Travis Pastrana, Andreas Bakkerud, Robin Larson, Leah Block, and all these great names that are really
Tanner now too.
Tanner Faust. Tokyo
yeah.
Drift. Hello. There's tons and tons of ththings to do there. You could probably say more than I can. You have all the friends coming out.
Yeah. Well, I like people. So, yeah, I came into this last year. I did 2 events last year. So mid-season last year, I came into it. And I'll say that one of the things that I first fell in love with and what sets this apart is the overall environment. It's just electric. It's like you're surrounded by thousands and thousands of your best friends you've never met yet. Everybody's excited. Everybody's stoked. Everybody's having a good time. And I think the other really special aspect about it from a spectator perspective is the immersion that you can get, right? You can go and, like Patrick was saying, meet all of your favorite drivers. And in a lot of high-level motorsports, you have this level of like, oh, I'm a driver. I'm going to go hide away because I need to go out there and perform. I don't want to talk to the fans. For us, we really care about that. We care about the fan experience as drivers because it's our job to. If the fans don't want to come, then we no longer have a spot to go and do what we do.
And it's not to say that we don't want to be the fastest drivers out there, but we really value and cherish everyone that does come out there. So we're still trying to win. Don't get me wrong. We'll rub doors and we'll make sure.
Oh, I know you guys rub doors.
Yeah, so we're
seen that.
We're friends in the paddock, but at the end of the day, when we step that dirt track right there, it's all bets off.
Dude,
no hard
the
feelings.
interviews were awesome. I can't remember which interview I was watching, but it was just kind of like, I don't want to say like petty, but kind of like a little bit of smack talk.
There's always smack talk.
There's always smack talk.
It.
You're putting like 50 drivers that are hyper competitive amongst 5 different classes, or if not more drivers, and like everyone wants to go out to win. Nobody's there to lose, right? If we're there to lose, why even show up? So, we're all talking smack the entire time. I get into this kid's head all the time. It's pretty easy.
You have
even
to
his
be.
teammates, we go back and forth.
Yeah, even as and
Well,
as
that's
much
your
as I
direct
love
competitor.
him. Yeah, as much as I love him, we talk shit all the time.
Oh yeah,
all the time.
It's part of the game.
So how did you guys meet then? How did you guys end up being teammates? And
You want to take this one or should I take this
No,
one?
you can take this one. You're pretty good at telling the story.
So I started my racing career very late. I graduated college. And I, got my degree and said, okay, well, now what do I do? I had this moment of, what is life? What does my life look like? What's my dream? What do I want to do? And I realized that my dream is to wake up every day and drive a race car. That was it. So I came in as a 21-year-old. No, 20. Oh, I was older than that. I was 22. 22-year-old with zero experience, and said, let's do this. Let's chase this dream. And So I started in stage rally, American stage rally, because rallying was always something I watched.
Why'd you choose that over like any other type of?
So one, because I loved it. Ken was a huge inspiration. And I don't know if you see my car in the back there, I've got the KB Forever on the car, and I'm running the 43i branding, the institute that they started in memory of Ken Block, or the foundation they started in memory of Ken Block. And it's a moment of pride for me to be there, because that's what made me a car guy, right? Even back when I was doing like the street car stuff, it was like, I want to do something crazy like Ken did, right? So I always thought it was cool. I thought that I could learn car control faster and better than everybody else if I was sliding a car out of control on gravel, trying to wrangle it for miles and miles and miles every weekend.
Okay, that checks out.
Right? So that was my thought behind it. It was like, okay, everybody else is here. I'm coming into this. I'm old and I'm down here. How do I get there? Right? How do I just absolutely like catch up to those guys? And if my idea was, okay, we'll stage rally maybe, and if I fail, which there's a high likelihood I would, at least I did what I wanted. I wasn't answering to anybody else. It was just answering to myself and the type of motorsports that I wanted to be in. So I was at my second rally ever. It was a rally called the Boone Forest Rally in Kentucky, McKee, Kentucky. It's a little town of like 200 people. And I was with this co-driver at the time. Her name was Allison LaRosa. And she was a great first co-driver for a lot of people. She was a teacher by trade when she wasn't a rally co-driver. So she had the teacher voice and she could, really help people. And so she did that for me, but she also did that for Patrick when Patrick got into rallying. It was Patrick's first co-driver. So we're there, Patrick's at this event, I'm at this event. I didn't know who he was. I'd heard stories, but I knew Patrick as the guy who has Jiggy Jiggy as one of his notes.
Lord, yeah.
So,
Shout out Travis for that one.
Yeah, so there's a certain moment on stage, if the road does X, Y, or Z, I don't know it because I don't use it. Patrick wants to hear Jiggy Jiggy from his co-driver, right? So I knew him as the kid that used
note.
Jiggy
It's
Jiggy.
a good note. Jiggy Jiggy. It's a left and a right between two trees that you can distinctly. Yeah, if I show you a Jiggy Jiggy, you'll understand.
I probably could, yeah. But
That better be a T-shirt.
Jiggy Jiggy.
I
can't steal that.
use
Travis
Kinks where
Pastrana
he's-
started it in Mount Washington, and I heard him on when I was a kid. I used to watch his onboards, and I heard that in one of his onboards, talking to his co-driver and being like, "Oh, just call that Jiggy Jiggy." I'm like, that makes total sense. And ever since then, I've used it.
Does he have a T-shirt for that?
I don't know.
You got it. He's
should.
got it.
I'll
right?
text him. I'll ask him if he does.
So that'd be a
Probably
misbranding opportunity if it isn't.
yeah, right. He probably should make that. Yeah.
So we're down there and we're doing recce, which for people who don't know, stage rally is like pre-running in desert racing, where you go and you drive every mile of the race at no more than 35 miles an hour. And your co-driver is sitting there with their book and they write, and you are driving and you call out what you see. Okay, this is a left 4 and whatever. That's how
Well,
you
you
write
should
your
probably
note.
explain the pace note system as well. Right?
That's getting too in depth. We can
All
come
right.
back to that.
Never mind.
So middle of recce, we need lunch. Stop at the only restaurant in town is a Subway. And who's there but Mr. Patrick Gruszka in his Jeep Wrangler. And I pull in, I go, that car's got Illinois plates on it. So I walk in, I'm like, "You're from Illinois, where are you from?" And he's like, "Chicago." I'm like, "Yeah, no shit, where?"
Immediately offended. Immediately offended.
Everybody from Illinois, when they're outside of Illinois, goes, "Chicago." Right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Yeah, no shit, where?" And he's like, "Downtown." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, no shit, where?" Yeah. Like, give me I'm from downtown. Like, give me the cross streets. That's how you know if someone's from the city. They'll just tell you, "Oh, I'm on, X and Y cross streets." And eventually we got there, and I was like, "Dude, I live 4 blocks away from you," and we didn't know each other. And so we came back from that rally. I had a really disappointing DNF 6 miles in, broke both axles. Attrition was high at that event. And we came back and started hanging out. I was like, "Yeah, I really want to get into that NitroCross stuff. Like, I've seen it. It's cool." And he's like, "All right, you want to run the next event?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I think you went back. You can finish the story of how I ended up here
Yeah,
with you
so
guys.
I never intended to own more than 1 car for NitroCross, and now I own 3. Don't really know. I woke up one day and I just looked in my garage, and now there's 3 of them. But the first one I bought from OMSE directly. We sort of did a deal where I'd do a few events, and eventually, if I liked it, I would buy it. The second car was actually a funny story. It was Bilco's that Reese Millen had in his shop in Los Angeles.
For those who don't know, Reese Millen was the, I believe, stunt coordinator and stunt driver in Tokyo Drift.
Yeah.
So a lot of desert
Tom
racing. They've got Baja
Yeah.
titles to their name, a lot of stunt driving, things like that. And even rallycross background as well.
Yep. So then I flew into Los Angeles for 6 hours. We made a deal for the car. They re-prepped the car as best as they could. And then he showed up in Phoenix with the car and it was good to go. I mean,
And
that's really it.
This is all based off of a verbal agreement for me going, yeah, I kind of want to do that. And sure enough, I get a call
Yeah.
from Patrick, goes, hey, I have a car for you. And I'm like, cool, we're there.
Yeah.
Like,
So
it's a good thing I meant it.
I mean, like, I take him pretty seriously. If he says he wants to do something, I don't think he's going to back out of it. So I'm like, all right, well, let me get you a car for this so you can run it. And next thing you know, we have it ready to go. I mean,
And this was from your second only.
I'd only done 2
Race.
events. When I did my
Yeah.
first NitroCross event, I had only done really 2 and 6 miles of a third rally, right? And I think that was one of the kind of the cornerstones that how my career has gone so far has been keeping myself uncomfortable. Always trying to kind of climb to the next rung of the ladder, even if, quite frankly, I don't know that I belong there. And figuring it out, kind of fly by the seat of your pants, figure it out. So I showed up to my first NitroCross event. Yeah, 2 stage rallies in a 197 horsepower front wheel drive Fiesta. Very different from the beasts that are behind us, right?
Quite very different.
Very different. And that was it. That was all the seat time I had. And it was like, all right, well, we're just going to go do this and learn and learn and learn and learn. And kind of always, keep punching 1 or 2 weight classes above, because as far as I thought, if everybody else is, the skill is way exceeding where I'm at. I got to do something to get there, right?
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen from just driving comfortably and being in spots that, I know I can go out there and get easy wins. I don't want easy wins, Actually, I don't even have a win to my name yet. I only have 2nd and 3rd places. I don't have a single win in my career yet. And I think part of that is because it's always like, I'm chasing after the next guy, the next fastest guy.
Well, I think that's part of motorsports as well, right? Like when you look at the best of all time, they're always chasing something. Like I don't know, do either of you follow F1 at all or not?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
You know this kid Kimmy that's coming in here next year? Like
Kimi Antonelli, what a legend.
Dude, crashes his car on lap 2 or whatever it was.
Yeah, but did you see how close he was to Lewis?
And then there's that, right? So that's one of the things that you have to consider,
Yeah,
right?
he made one mistake, but damn, that was spot on.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like when you look at motorsports, right, you have to see potential, right? You can work out all the kinks and all that along the way, but you have to be sending it. A 17-year-old is going to come take your place at any point. So you got to be absolutely sending it at all times. And sometimes things happen along the way. We've seen this story a million times at this point. So you have to be punching above your weight class because your weight class isn't going to exist.
Well, and in motorsports too, there's always somebody out there with more skill and more money. And a lot of motorsports, actually like 98% of motorsports, I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but the way the business of motorsports works is you don't get paid as a driver. You
pay for your seat.
You pay for your seat if you can afford it yourself, or you go get sponsors. Well, the only way to go get sponsors is to have at least some sort of background, or convincing somebody to give you the backing to do it. But knowing that like there's not going to be a return for them, right? Unless you can like really create value for them. So even guys in IndyCar that are doing full seasons of IndyCar, they are going out and fundraising that themselves. Unless you're the top 5 guys, sponsors aren't coming to you. You got to go find them.
How do you provide value to sponsors?
So it's different based on the series.
Okay.
With a sport like NitroCross, you don't get the same publicity power, right? That you do in Formula One or NASCAR, right? Or IndyCar or any of those top series.
With millions and millions and millions of viewers.
Right.
Yeah.
So you don't get that. You don't get that publicity that you can't really offer them that. You can offer them a little bit. You can say, hey, your brand awareness is going to increase. People are going to see your logo. But like what I pitch to sponsors is, hey, bring your clients, your potential clients out to these events, because our team, something that we really focus on and pride ourselves on, is the hospitality. We offer hospitality unlike any other. I mean, there's a tent that comes off of the trailer 40 feet, and there's like a lounge in there and places to work on the car. They get the behind the scenes, full immersive experience, and then they get to see a car with their logo on it flying through the air 100 feet. That has the ability to really see deals through with these big brands, if they're trying to, close a client or a potential client or something like that, we say, hey, you can come out to this for free.
Okay.
And
that's a cool Facebook cover photo, by the way. If I was the owner of a company and then I could just put, my logo flying through the air, it's cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Because where else are you having cars that jump 100 feet? The other big sell is, if you have it, when not everybody does, is the personality. If you can sell your personality too and say, hey, look, I'm a good representative for you, right? Like, sure, I may not have the following that, some of these other top guys do, but, you can put me me in my race suit on a billboard or in a commercial, and you see all the commercials all the time like that. You have no idea who the people in the commercial are, but they say they're a racing driver. They're a racing driver, right? And you can do that, and so to offer good representation is also important. But there's a ton of good ways to provide value to these people and these sponsors. You just have to get creative with it.
It's a full-time job in itself.
Yeah.
I'm sure,
absolutely. Yeah. To
It's
make
also-
no money, right? Like we don't even break even.
And and that's basically what motorsport is until a certain point, right?
You're probably doing pretty good if you're breaking even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Breaking even is a dream.
Extremely good.
Yeah.
Extremely good.
It's that age-old quote, like, how do you make $1 million in motorsport? You start with 2, It's,
Start
it's
with a
age-old.
billion.
You start with a billion.
Yeah, billion.
So
Yeah.
you had a car and you were already running NitroCross. So how do you get into that? You just show up with a car and be like, hey, I want to do this?
So I originally was going to do the first event of the season calendar, which was Jay, Oklahoma at Mid-America.
Okay.
They actually had a huge event there where they invested a lot of money in the infrastructure, and then some stuff went down with Mid-America, so we're not there again. But
I don't know the drama on that one.
I
Can't back you up there.
don't know either, but I just heard rumors, so I'm not going to spiel them, right?
Yeah.
But so I reached out to the OMSE guys because I knew they ran all the cars and they sort of build them and they know what's up. So I reached out to them, like, hey, is there any way, please, 2 weeks before an event to get me a car for this race? And they're like, absolutely not. But for the next one, we can have something organized for you. And I sort of built that relationship with them. And actually, funny enough, my dad raced with the original car. So the car that we ran, so I think that's body shell number 4 in the whole history of the car. So it's been 12 years of production. That's shell 4.
I'm
7,
007.
yeah,
Yeah,
007 and
007.
06. So they're one of the first ones to come out of production. So they've seen a lot of racing throughout the days. So my dad raced one of them. I actually tested them in LA for X Games, and we knew the Andreas family, or the Erickson family, pretty well. Andreas, who runs the whole show, and they organized a car for us. I talked to Travis actually at a rally. I'm like, hey, how do I do this? He's like, just reach out to them and we'll make it happen. So I'm so happy I did, because it's honestly some of the funnest rally or racing you can watch nowadays.
Well, and at the time you did, because quite frankly, if you went to go do that right now, it wouldn't be possible. And we're only a
Yes.
year later, not even a year later.
Yeah.
Now there's so many people that want to do it.
Oh, yeah.
There's it's selective.
Yeah.
It's really selective now. Back then, when it was first starting, like, yeah, we'll take what we can get. Like, if you guys are gonna go buy the cars and run them and invest money into this, absolutely, we want you. So that's another thing that goes along with what I was talking about earlier, the betting on it, right? And that one I think has paid off for us, because we have 3 spots on the grid with these 3 cars that a lot of people want. But you can only have so many cars out there, right? It's a hazard to put 30 cars over a jump together.
Yeah, I can see that. So when you say selective, what do you mean by that?
Like if you went to try and go and say, hey, I want to start a NitroCross team, I think it'd be a lot more challenging now than it was last year.
Yeah, the cost of entry right now is just like extreme. Well, it's not extremely high, not unattainable. But if you're trying to come out and do, hey, I'm going to do one event, let's have at it. In our class, it becomes very, very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And the side-by-sides, I don't think you can even do it in the side-by-sides or class 11 because they're just full.
Yeah,
right.
They only have so many of those.
There's the cost of running that event as just a driver is lower than what we're doing, but there's just no spots. You can't.
So year over year, is it probably going to get more expensive to maintain your seats then? Before we get too far into the show, I wanted to take a moment to talk about Raise a Hood. If your daily driver is having issues, aka your beater you got off Craigslist, Raise a Hood's telemechanics and AI tools can help you diagnose and solve the issues you may be dealing with for a fraction of the cost. All you have to do is add your car to the Raise a Hood garage to get started. You can provide the AI tool, also known as Gus, with the specifics of the issues you're having, and it'll help you narrow down what the culprit is. It's a great way to bounce ideas off of to figure out what actually might be the problem. You could then select from a variety of solutions to explore the cost and difficulty of doing the repair yourself versus taking it to a shop. If your car doesn't have detailed solutions yet, that's totally fine. Just go ahead and add your car to the garage for free, and that'll let the Razor Hood team know what to focus on as they continue to develop and grow. If you want to try out Gus or chat with a telemechanic, go to razorhood.com and add your car to the garage to get started. Use code MONOXIDE-FREE for a 1-month free subscription or Monoxide20 to save 20% on a 30-minute call with a telemechanic. Let's get back to the show.
A lot of you guys know Ratified Motorsport for their RS3, TTRS, 1,000 horsepower hairdresser car builds, but they are so much more than that. From basic maintenance on an R35 GTR to, cute little Volkswagen GTIs like mine, they're able to do a little bit of everything. Whether it's your basic maintenance or an intake and a tune or even a full-blown build, be sure to go to ratifiedmotorsport.com to get yourself booked today, and I hope to see you guys at the shop.
Yeah, so I don't think the cost of the seat is actually going to become more expensive. It's just there's so few of them to really give out to the whole field. I mean, I think we're capped around, 20? And we're already over half of that.
I don't even think we could do 20.
I don't think, it becomes much, much harder. The track design of it all becomes much more difficult to sort of make happen. So we're at a really good number right now with 11?
10.
10?
If that car runs, 10 cars.
Okay.
Yeah, so 10 cars. I mean, at Richmond, it's sort of the layout of the track is a little bit more tight-knit. Sure, you have the big bankings and the insides. I mean, you saw we bunched up on the first corner, I think 8 cars.
Yeah, I mean,
on
everything's
one corner.
narrow, right? Mm-hmm. These jumps and all the lanes and everything, it's all narrow, so.
And the reason that question kind of comes to mind is, like, for example, if you look at Formula One, right? Again, I'm going to use that as an example until the end of time, is you look at, like, Verstappen, right? If he gets 400 points, in a season, guess what? His entry cost next season just went way up.
With the whole FIA point system, I understand that. I don't think that'll ever happen.
I was just curious if that's something similar.
That's not something that really happens here. Thankfully, we sort of have USAC that sort of runs all the sporting in America, where the licensing is much easier to do. The licensing is much easier to do, so I don't think it'll ever become a case of, I won too many events, I have to pay more money, right? Which is nice.
Will they expand, add more races, add more drivers?
Because currently you're at 6, right?
Well, so
we're
doing new classes. Yeah, five rounds, but they're all doubleheader weekends, so actually 10 rounds total. But 5 different locations across the U.S. But they're adding more classes. So they have the top class electric car, then they have us, then they have Sierra E cars. I don't know if you guys have seen the Sierra cars. They're like little single-seater
cross carts. You guys know what cross carts are? No?
That's like
that's an off-road thing.
Entry-level rallycross. But they're single-seater, like a Can-Am, but single-seater and all electric, and like actually really cool and super powerful. And that's coming in. I believe next event they'll have those from then on. And then there's side-by-side and then the Baja buggies. So we're expanding the amount of classes there are, but at the end of the day, you can only fit so much racing into one weekend.
Right.
Yep.
So what does progression look for you guys, right? Let's say you next year, the year after that, what does 5 years from now look like? Do you go up to, what's the top class?
Group E.
Okay. Is that kind of what you progress towards, or do you just kind of max out this class?
So Group E at the end of the day is where all the top drivers really go to race. So you have Leah Block, Travis Pastrana, Tanner Faust, all Deegan, Brian Deegan, Victor Vranks, all the fast drivers. Connor Martell, yeah, they're all competing. Robin Larson, Backarud, that we can list them
Robin
on.
Larson's a 2-time NitroCross world champion.
Yeah, he's an extremely quick driver. So, that's really the pinnacle of NitroCross at the moment, right? That who's to say that they won't come up with the next big thing? Maybe they'll have like some spaceships that fly around the track or something. I don't know. Possibly, it's not out of the picture, and it's cool to see them putting a clear path of progression for anyone coming into the sport. So you can come in from Baja Bugs, work your way to side-by-sides. From there, go into the Sierra cars. From the Sierra cars, you can go into the next Evos and then Group E, right? So I think eventually what's going to happen is before you can race a Group E car, you have to race one of the lower classes just to sort of feel out how NitroCross works.
And feel out the jumps. Jumping is a weird thing, and if you haven't done it before,
gotta
get used to
every day on 94.
Yeah. So jumping the cars, a lot of people for the first time come in and sort of like, they're like, they watch it on TV. It's not that big. It's not crazy stuff. I can do that in my sleep.
It's huge. You stand there, and we'll have you guys out to one of the races. When you stand there looking at the gap jump, you're like,
the first
car
time
is going off of that?
The first time you do a
insane.
track walk, I mean, you probably have felt this when you came to the first one you ever did.
My first event, I walked up to Travis and I'm like, yo, Trav, okay, I got a question for you. My Fiesta, my 197 horsepower Fiesta, doesn't leave the ground all that often. What the fuck am I doing here? I said it exactly like that. And he's like, all right, well, you see, there's an 80-foot tabletop in the back. Every lap, 80-foot tabletop. And then down the straight, there was a 20-foot, 25-foot, and a 30-foot tabletop. So 4 jumps per lap. And I'd never done it before. And I knew I had to just go out there and do it, especially because in my first session ever, they stagger the starts for practice. So like you'll have one car, 10 seconds later you'll have another car. So they're all in different points in the track. So I'm like on the grid, I'm starting last, obviously my first event. I look up and there's Leah. I see her taking the 80-foot tabletop and I'm like handbrake, like launch control, bah, 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 bah. And I'm like, I guess I got to do it. Otherwise I'm going to like cut her off and now I'm going to feel bad. So that was like, you had the pressure of somebody behind you. But what Travis said was, he goes, there was a big banked corner, dirt banked corner. And he goes, and it was a hairpin, 180 degree. And I was like, he's like, I think what you're going to do, and he's like, I haven't tested them. Normally he does. He goes, I haven't tested it yet, but I think what you're going to do is you're going to go out of that. You're going to be flat through there. You get a big rotation. You're going to be in second. You're going to bang third on the face of the jump. You're going to keep your foot to the floor, and you're going to make it. Sure enough, I go around that corner. Handbrake, big rotation, second gear, stay in the throttle, like on the face of the jump. I'm looking up at sky, smack third, leave my foot to the floor, and I cleared it, greased it actually. And I'm like, the ability of that guy to just look at it and go, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Bearing in mind that he hadn't driven one of those cars in a long time or hit that jump or whatever. He just looked at it and said, that's exactly what you're going to do. He was right.
Well, that guy's been jumping shit for a long time.
A long time.
Yeah. I remember the Nitro Circus days watching that stuff. Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, he's
a madman.
Yes.
A walking legend, right?
Yeah.
Living legend. It's pretty cool to see him sort of put his heart and soul into all of this at the end of the day. And not only making the jumps bigger, badder, but also making them as safe as they can be, right? So that's really important to him to make sure that at the end of the day, there's enough drivers to want to keep competing.
So this is you, he scoops you up from Subway, buys you a car,
Right.
takes you to an event,
Right.
throws you on a dirt track and just says go. There was no practicing. Like this was your practice.
That was it. Trial by fire. And that's the way I like it.
I told him what he had to do. To be fair, I didn't just strap him in there. I'm
fair.
like, all right, good luck, bud. I hope to see you at the finish line.
So you gave me some like tips and pointers on how the car feels and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like the other part of it was like, it was, blind faith and ignorance, right? It was like, I can do this. My unwavering confidence is the greatest tool in racing.
It's the Leo in him, right? Is that
Yeah.
what it is? Yeah, it's the Leo in him for all the
It's that over cocky thing.
Yeah.
Well, you can't have doubt. When you're going up for an 80-foot tabletop, you can't have doubt that you're not going to make it. You have to say, I'm making it over that thing. I'm
I
going
was
to do
literally
what
telling
Travis
him
said. I'm
this
going to make it.
on the way over here, like what, 2 or 3 days ago. I'm like, dude, you cannot have a moment of doubt in something like this because that's what's going to hurt you even more.
Yeah. That's where things go wrong, is when you start doubting yourself and you start like overthinking it. You can't really think about it. You just have to do it. It has to be second nature. And I'll say that my first weekend in that car, I got last and last. Right? Not ashamed to admit, I sucked. I was like 2 seconds off pace per lap, a second and a half per lap off pace.
But how do you come back from that?
Just keep going. Unwavering confidence, right? It's honestly like I kind of say it joking, but half serious. It's like, believing in yourself is the greatest thing. And I thought that, okay, if they can do it, I'm looking at the rest of the field. I'm like, if they can do it, I can do it. Sure, I might not have the same, background. I've been doing this for 15 years, but it is possible. It's within my, realm. I can do it. I did some coaching and things like that, not in this car, in front wheel drive, Fiestas, things like that. And how hard can it be, right? That was the mindset. How hard can it be? Last and last, okay. Every session that I was out there felt insanely chaotic, but the first session and the last session felt a lot better, a lot less chaotic. I could breathe.
Controlled chaos.
And then we go to Vegas, which was my next event. And when I hopped in that car, I knew exactly what to expect.
Okay.
And I didn't get last in Vegas. Moved up. I think I knocked off 2 or 3 spots. It's like I was happy about that. We have progression.
What does training look like? Because, for example, any of my autocross or road course friends, they have all this I don't know what the hell is that thing called that Middleton recommended to you again.
Oh, the Garmin Catalyst.
Yeah, like these different things to just kind of track data analytics and all this stuff. Do you guys have all that crazy stuff in
For
your
what, like
cars?
your body, your physical health, or
No, like as in
No.
like for like the cars.
The
and,
car
like,
itself.
The
Yeah.
cars,
We
the
have data.
G's, I mean,
Yeah.
it's tracking data.
So these cars run Motec ECUs. You can see everything on there, and it shows it as a line. It's a trace.
So do you guys pull data after races
We
and
pull
stuff?
data and we look at it, and you can analyze. You can say, okay, this was the second corner. You know, why does your throttle trace look like here and then it dips down? Like, why'd you lift right there, right? Or, you know, why did you do X, Y, Z? Why is the steering input like this, right? And you can sit there and analyze the whole thing, and that's when you sit down with your engineers and your coaches and you say, you know,
I mean,
let's
we'll
figure
even
this out.
compare data. Like, we are competitors, but I'm always looking to help out however I can. So if he's struggling with something, or if I'm struggling with something, I'll come to Alastair and say, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? Right?
Well, I think that showed a lot. Like when I first started in LA was my first event, and that's an all dirt track. And quite frankly, dirt doesn't make as much sense in my mind as asphalt does. And then, so you helped me a lot there. And then we go to Vegas and you're like, man, I'm really struggling with all the asphalt on this track.
Yeah.
And I helped you with that.
Yeah, so I come from rally only, right? An American Rally, so the ARA, American Rally Association, that sort of runs all the events here in America. There's 0 tarmac events, believe it or not. There's beautiful roads everywhere, but we do not have a tarmac rally.
We have like 3 tarmac stages in the whole calendar.
Yeah, so that's
2
Mary
of them are in
Hill.
Oregon.
Mary Hill, the oldest road, paved road in the state of Oregon, and it's sort of like legendary with downhill longboarders or skateboarders. So they like love that road and it's sacred to them.
Very West Coast.
Very West Coast, yeah. And like I don't know where the other ones are.
Sofer.
So yeah, Sofer has a few of them, and Southern Ohio
Ojibwe.
Forest Rally and Ojibwe has I think 1.
Yeah.
So like we have very limited tarmac experience where you're not really on a tarmac setup. You're sort of still on a gravel dampers and sort of like putting on some street tires that you bought at a garage or Just tires. And
Anything
you're
you
sort of,
can find.
and you're winging it, right? But here, like you come to Las Vegas where it's 100% tarmac, 80% tarmac. Like there's a few sections, and like just don't have the experience. So I'm sort of like, well, I'm braking too early on every single corner because I just don't trust the car as much as I can be. So, I mean, Alastair has much more experience on tarmac than I ever had. So I'm like, dude, give me a helping hand or something.
A lot of that's actually lower
struggling.
whacker taught.
Okay, yeah. Well, I don't really want to.
I don't condone street racing, but lower whacker in Chicago, it's either you're going to figure out how to make it around that corner or you're going to go into the wall.
You're getting locked up.
And and there's a lot of lower whacker teaching moments there, but yeah, it's in on dirt and on gravel, you want to slide the car. You want about 30% slide. It's fast, right? You can scrub speed that way, so you don't have to brake as hard. You can brake later on gravel if you just slide the thing. Asphalt, obviously, you don't want to do that. So there is a gap, right? There is a transition between the two, and that's what makes rallycross a challenge. Is you're going from dirt, and then 100 feet later, you'll be on asphalt for another corner, and you have to adapt like that. I mean, you just have to think about it and just go.
Well, it adds another element, right? Like it's understanding the asphalt part, the transition, and then the gravel part.
Yeah.
That's 3 different parts if you think of it that way, I suppose.
Well, that adds another factor in for tire choice too, right? I mean, you got to have
We
something
only get
that
one choice.
Is
You
that
only
what it
get
is?
one choice.
Yeah,
Huh?
it's actually what I don't know if the
Yoko's-
cameras can see it, but there's a
Yokohama's
laptop stand over there made
Advance.
of
Okay.
Yokohama. Yeah, it's a
There's
special
one of them.
compound that Yokohama makes for us. And
Yep. Developed just for this, where it's sort of like you can drive on both surfaces and it's still manageable. So that's the nice
Okay.
part.
we do have grip. It's actually more gripped up. You look at that tire and you go, there's nothing on there. You have no tread blocks.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a slick with a little bit of groove in it. There's more grip than you'd think.
Does Yokohama sponsor the
Yes.
whole NitroCross thing?
These
Okay.
do. Yep. So Yokohama they made a custom tire for the Group E cars, which are 1,000 horsepower. So you need something special for that. And now they just developed them even more where they're bead locked. For us, they sort of have like a special compound of like a stock tire that they already have that we use. And
I think we're going to need more in the future, though, because
Yeah.
with Richmond, the way it was, our class was within a second of the race pace for
Yeah.
Group E. So you're talking about a 550 horsepower car versus their 1,000 horsepower car.
wow.
And they're 1,000 torque, too, those electric ones.
yeah.
We were within a second.
And some moments you have to clarify. In some moments in the beginning of the weekend, we were just about right there at the same pace. I think actually
it, too.
round 2 as well.
So
yeah.
the last day competition, there was a gap of 1 second.
These
Actually, I
yeah.
think less, but
these cars are extremely fast, and they keep up with the Group E boys too. So that's cool to see.
Because while those cars make 1,000 horsepower, 1,000 torque, Yep.
All right, I gotta put this guy away.
They're
I'm
really
sorry,
heavy.
guys.
I mean, all those batteries and
Yeah.
those electric motors, there's a lot of weight there, right?
Hey,
and so these things are a lot lighter, but make a lot less power. But still similar performance.
There's
Decently similar. I should clarify for any Group
Yeah, I
B
mean,
drivers.
when
They're going to
you're-
go, oh, no, we're way faster. I
depending
mean, a
on
second is significant. Don't get me wrong.
right.
But, I mean, we were like, 10 in the last iteration of this car, we were 10, 15 seconds behind their pace.
That's
right?
a big jump.
It's a big jump.
But when you use that for comparison, then yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Well, that all has to do. The big part of that too is track layout, distance,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
so I road race a 4,200 pound, 760 horsepower GT500, and I'm on the same track with 190 horse FRSs, and we're coming in similar times,
Yeah.
depending on where you're at. Road America, not so much. We've got a long straight where I can really pick up some pace.
Right.
So it sometimes having 1,000 horsepower
That's the best
isn't
track
really.
in the world, Road America.
Oh, I love it.
That's my home
It's my
track.
favorite. Yeah.
It's great.
It's great. When I bring that up, most people go, "Oh, Road America."
Yeah.
What about so you guys mentioned Motec, right? So for example, we're really familiar with the drag racing side of things,
Yeah, yeah.
roll racing, where you'll hear a car just absolutely cut power, because it's losing traction on the strip or whatever, or power management, whatever it is. I shouldn't say cut, but is it a similar situation? Are you guys fighting for traction, or do you ever even see traction control flicker on your
We have
cars?
no
we
traction
have
control.
no ABS, no traction
That's your right
control.
foot.
It's
Okay.
you in the car. Yeah. Yep.
Do you know which Motec systems are in there by any chance, or no?
You want? I'd get up and show you if I. Is that
We can
allowed?
pause.
Yeah, go look.
I mean,
at it.
I'd go look
Go
right
read what's on there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually don't know. I mean, we got these ECUs like a day before the event.
Okay, so M150. I think that's what's in the AJ's Calvo car that he's currently selling.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure that's what he has in there is the M150.
AJ's garage.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
got some cool stuff. He always
Yeah,
has
episode
cool
34.
stuff.
Check it out. No, actually, never mind. He was 35 after ratified.
Yeah, he's got some great stuff.
He always has some cool stuff come through there.
Yeah.
He's always offered to find. He says I never give him shout outs. Here's a shout out, AJ. But no, and I'm just curious, right? Because again, I like seeing the crossover, and it seems like Motec's just kind of like the holy grail for.
Well,
Oh,
the
yeah.
M150 probably has capabilities for traction controls, but probably not something you're even using in this.
We don't
that's
want it.
lame.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We're always
Yeah.
sliding the cars,
Right.
right? Because it'll detect that slip and then cut our power in the middle of the
Yeah.
slide, which is where we need it.
Right.
On the dirt, we need that. Now, granted, on the asphalt, you don't want it as much, but sometimes you need to have your slip angle there, right?
Now, you guys said you got your ECUs right in Richmond, right?
Yeah.
So how much of this is controlled by NitroCross or whoever is, right? So is it kind of like, what are your limitations that you can do to the car? Basically, you're not allowed to touch
No,
or tinker.
setup-
So
No,
they
yeah.
set them up for you, you run them.
ECU power wise, every car is the same thing.
Okay.
Now it really matters how you set the car up. So your suspension, your your roll bars, things like that really come into play. Your ride heights and sort of really finding the right setup, not only for you but for the right track at any given moment.
So who's doing that? Do you have you said you have a team of 30 between the two of you?
Yeah. So we have probably around 30 individuals that came to Richmond, all from
How many engineers?
three.
Yeah, 3 engineers.
3 engineers, a tuner on standby in case we didn't get the ECUs and had to figure something out, right? But that's a story for another time.
We
But-
always have contingency plans too.
You
So that
always
involves
have
a lot of other
contingency
people that don't necessarily come to the race, but are waiting with bated breath in case we need them.
Yeah, so we had someone there specifically for suspension, another person for setting up the differentials and checking everything, making sure it's all okay with the car. I'm sure I'm missing a lot of things because I'm just
It's a big sport. Yeah, there's a lot
Yeah.
of things. At the end of the day, you guys are the drivers, right?
Right.
You're only able to do so much of it yourself.
yeah, I mean, we just turn the wheel and hope for the best, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you can attest to that very much because you just pray, right? Because it's just your mantra. But I think you're doing a great job as much
Thank
as I'm saying, right? But it's definitely a tough sport to get into.
What kind of feedback are you providing to your engineers and your team, right? How the car feels. What does that conversation look like for adjustments?
I think it could be different for every driver, but I know for me, I'll get out of the car and I'll say, okay, when I do this, it's doing this, and I don't want it to. I want to do this. So, Case in point, Richmond, we got those big banks. We went out for our first few laps, our first session, on a very baseline setup that's built for any other track but Big Bank Oval, right? And that was the big bank was a significant portion of the track. And I'm like, look, this thing's snapping and oversteering on me all the damn time. It's I need this thing to understeer more. I need to be able to push out to the wall. I need to come up, be able to mat the throttle, lay into it, and have it slide up to the wall. and have confidence in that understeer. And, our engineer took that and said, okay, like I have the exact changes I'm going to make. It doesn't bother me with it. You just tell, because I need to go focus on X, Y, Z, looking at in-car, looking at my inputs, things, and doing my own side of it. But he'll take that information, interpret it, and then go set it up the way you want, and then you do another feedback session at the end of the another session, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's also like very limited time to get that right setup, right? You have to be in that car from the first session. You come into the first practice, quote unquote, and you have to be on it off the rip.
Yeah.
So it really takes a lot of planning before the fact of like discussing what the track's going to look like, what the textures are, and really make a plan before you go in there with the car setups to sort of have a baseline, which then you tailor closer and closer. So that's where the team really comes in and plays a big role in that.
Well, and that added an interesting dynamic to Richmond, because obviously this is the first time we're in these cars. Last year in the 300 horsepower variant, I was already out of my element. Right now we just hop in this. Again, the only race cars I've been in, keep in mind, 197 horsepower Fiesta, right? So all of a sudden we hop into this monster behind us, and not only am I having to learn the car, but also, and the way it responds to things, but also try and dial in that setup. So it makes it even tougher to say, okay, is this my driving, or is this, the car not responding the way I need it to?
Yeah.
How do you distinguish that?
Well, when you're driving, when you're in those sessions on track, the idea is to always be thinking about what the car is doing. You want the driving to be second nature. The driving should always be second nature. But in this case, it wasn't, because I'd never been in this car before. I'd never been in anything like this car before. And all of a sudden, I'm out there on a racetrack trying to push it at 100%. It was very hard for me to distinguish, like, because the driving wasn't second nature, I'm focusing on the driving, and then what is actually the car doing? And I found myself coming in and going, I wish I had collected more data in my mind while I was out there. And you don't have the opportunity for that, because you need to dial in these setups like stat. Right? You got to have them fast. And so the idea is, as a driver, you go out and make as many mental notes on the way the car is responding and how you want the setup to change as you can. Sometimes you don't get that luxury.
So is there a place, so you get your practice session, is there, and you don't know the layouts probably until you get there, right?
Yeah.
But
things change like morning to morning. So like we went out for our first day of practice, and then by the end of the weekend, 8 things had changed.
Which isn't typical. That was a one-off event. It was the first time we ran Richmond, so they were trying to make the track more driver-friendly, right? But that meant changes on the fly. So from day 1, day 2, there's a lot of changes.
But at a typical event, you will have like a dirt berm, and then the next day you're going through the same part of track.
No dirt berm.
All of a sudden you look down and you're like, oh, there's no dirt berm. I was using that as a marker. Like, oh, I can't use that anymore. You have to think about it on the fly.
You have to learn new markers all the time then.
Yeah.
So is there a place to practice? I mean, do you go to like those indoor motocross parks or anything like that? Can you go? No. So you're basically, those cars are sitting. You can tinker with them, look at them, start them up.
If you guys have a track,
test in the parking lot here.
If you have a track that is willing to rent to me, and that's
like a go-kart track,
that is to everyone.
We're looking for one.
We're looking for a
here.
track. We're not going to put big dirt jumps in, but we just need a place where we can test. We just want to run the track.
So if you've got one that's near Chicago, or at least within a few hours of Chicago, let us know. We'll come.
Do you at least get them out in the country and hit dirt roads or anything like that?
We actually, before Vegas, tested the cars here.
It was not OSHA approved whatsoever. We shut this place down on a Friday, like a few hours early. And we had every employee from Green APU on the manufacturing side of things out there with walkie-talkies and like high-vis and all that.
That was an interesting time, and I think we can talk about it now, right?
Yeah, we talked about it in Vegas. So
that
podcast.
I broke 2 out of the 3 cars shaking them down, which is always a great feeling a few days before you leave to the event.
Yeah, right.
I still get so worked up when I think about it, because it was nobody's fault, but it's just a shitty thing to go through, because you have 3 cars that are supposed to be competing in Las Vegas.
And these 3 cars, right?
These 3 before they got changed into this model. But
this was the biggest event of the year too. It was our
biggest
season
event
finale.
of the year.
We were on the strip in Vegas. Like it was a wild event. So we're like, we need to make it.
Yeah.
There's no other option here.
And 72 hours before our kill time, when the truck had to leave, or 48 hours, something like that. I think it was like.
It was close.
It was really close. It was 48 hours to the kill time, where we had to be on the road. Otherwise, we'd be late and wouldn't make it. I take the cars out, rip them through here, and there's a little asphalt to dirt sort of transition, but there's like a little divot, which in race car terms means nothing. right? You just
Yeah.
go over it, don't even feel it. But for some reason, these cars felt it pretty bad. And like
I didn't like that.
2 out of the 3 cars under the compression just like blew up. Like they didn't blow up bad, but they just shut down. They're like, I don't like this. Put me back in the garage. But thankfully, it was just small, minor things, and it got him back up and running. But I was only going to test his car, but then I got in, like, I blew his up. I'm like, all right, next one. Let's just blow all of them up and just not even go. What's the point of this, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's one of those moments where you're like, all right, let's just, like, figure
Scrap
this
it.
out, scrap it, But
We made it.
thankfully, the guys buckled down, and it's a props to them. I mean, they're a great team, so really thank you to
I
the
think
guys.
we've got one of the best teams in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
When
That's
this
without a
place
doubt.
is, during business hours, we have this whole room is packed full of guys, and they're all working hard.
We
and
have to
they
tell the
kick ass.
audience that it's currently 9:46 when we're recording this right now, so everyone's gone home, and it's after hours at Green APU.
It's like Night at the Museum, but
Night-
with race cars.
Yeah, it's more like Five Nights at Freddy's.
Which one do you guys want to sleep in, or
Yeah,
What,
Yeah.
in the cars?
in the car?
we
Yeah.
got top bunk, opposite sides for feet and things like that.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
push 2 of these chairs together and just sleep in them.
Yeah.
Hey, I've had it.
So could you take this to like a Ford dealer?
Could I take this to what?
To a Ford
the
dealer?
cars for Ford. I don't think they know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
They're
I
gonna be
think
like,
even if you
2.3.
just took the block
Yeah.
to them, they'd be like,
yeah, because these are actually sent to Montoon out in
Montoon,
England,
yeah.
and they do the engine side of things completely, right? So it's not only, it's actually a closed deck engine, so they revamped everything from top to bottom. So it's really cool.
it's modeled after the Ford 2.3, but it's
Yeah.
a Montoon motor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beasts.
For the folks who know Montoon.
So we know or I don't know about you, Dan. I know nothing about like suspension and how much these things travel. Like,
Well, that's really interesting when it comes to this car. So you'd think,
Yeah.
you're jumping a car. Excuse me. You're jumping a car 100 feet. You need long travel suspension. And I thought that too.
mm-hmm.
Then I saw this car for the first time. And I realized that it has cantilever suspension, which is very limited travel.
Yeah.
I mean, if you
So-
look at the Hyundai and compare it to this, right, you can actually sort of see how it's set up damping-wise. It is 2 different philosophies on how it works, right? This is more of a track-style setup, which you would think going over these 90-foot jumps would be like, all right, this is going to extremely hurt. They actually take them pretty well because the way you set them up, the way you fly the cars, it's like taking a corner, as Travis once said, right? It's just another corner that
Yeah,
you
Travis
go over.
calls jumps, and this is why I think he's insane.
Oh, Lord.
He calls jumps, I believe the quote was 3D corners.
Yeah. yeah. Indeed. Because it's the same concept. If you take it too fast, you hit a wall. You take it too slow, you're losing time, and it's going to hurt
Yeah.
too a little bit more.
I guess that's fair. It's just on a different.
Yeah.
It's a different plane. You're just going up rather than
Yeah,
around.
the math
Yeah.
checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All physicists, like Neil deGrasse Tyson's punching the air right now.
Yeah.
That's what you guys need on this podcast.
Who?
Neil deGrasse
Oh,
Tyson.
dude, that'd be hilarious. A car is like okay, whatever.
That'd be interesting to pick his brain on the nitty gritty of this thing, like one of these
You'd be
cars
like,
behind
this
us.
thing has no right to be functioning right now. I don't know how it's driving.
No, you know that one meme? Meow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That perfectly describes it.
Yeah.
I'm turning into a total child. Don't worry about it.
It's the brain rot. We've all got it.
Dude, the brain, especially, like we literally drove down here. What was it, 6-hour drive from your place, Dan, to come on down here? We're like, all right, set up the microphones, let's go. I mean, granted, you guys treated us some pizza, which was pretty good, so that was perfect timing. But
Good POW conditions, right?
Yeah. I've
You have to
never
feed prisoners by law.
I've never come to Chicago and not had a deep dish pizza, so thanks
It wasn't
for
deep
that.
dish, but it was good pizza
Well, it wasn't
nonetheless.
even Chicago style. It wasn't even tavern or any Chicago
yeah,
style.
we'll probably
It's
figure
just
something
pizza.
out.
All right,
Yeah.
so we're here right now. I got you guys here. Who's got the best deep dish in town?
I don't eat deep dish, so I'm the wrong person
I'll
to look
take
at.
that one.
Yeah, you
All
can.
right.
So, and this might get some Chicagoans. If you guys, I don't know if you guys have a lot of Chicago viewers. This might get
It's
some
actually a
Chicagoans.
significant percentage.
Really?
Oh, Lord.
Well, bear with me,
You're
everyone.
going to get run out of town.
The reason I like this is because what I grew up on. Now, I won't say this is the best, but to me, this is. This is, childhood. Is Giordano's spinach stuffed deep dish pizza.
Okay.
Kind of calling it an audible there.
Yeah.
Just because, it's a little different, but it's what I like.
I'm a Lou's classic guy.
I mean, Lou's has
yeah.
a great pie too.
Yeah.
You can't hate on it. But the hardcore Chicagoans with the accent,
Yeah,
right? They'll tell you that tavern style is the Chicago pizza. I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But
So what's your guys' history, right? Like you kind of touched on yours earlier, like how you got into this. How did you initially get into rallying? Where's the passion come for that?
Oh, so I have an interesting story because interesting, not interesting. My dad started racing practically at the same time as Travis Pastrana, the late Ken Block, and a lot of other great names. And entry stage left, I guess. Yeah. Well. So he got his start really.
People who aren't watching on YouTube are gonna have no idea. What we're
Yeah, they're
talking
gonna be like,
about
"What the hell are we
Milo comes
laughing
in."
at?" It's my dog right now doing some.
Oh yeah.
Don't worry
radar
about casting
things.
couch stuff.
Yeah, this is casting couch stuff right here. But he's a good dog. He's been barking a little bit, so I apologize. But I've been handed custodial duties of him today because my girlfriend, significant other, is working at a hospital doing the Lord's duty. So
She's saving lives, and we're out here,
Yeah,
shooting
we're out
shit
here.
talking about race cars.
Yeah, right.
yeah. So sorry, Kelly. He's made it on the pod. But my dad started racing when I was really young, so I really grew up in the atmosphere of rally at the time, which.
I got to interject here.
Okay.
Would you mind sharing with the kind folks at home, because I think this is a story that everybody needs to hear. What happened in Art's first stage rally? Art, for those who don't know, is Patrick's father. Art Gruszka. He's a legend.
Yeah. So he started rallying at the same time as Travis and Ken. He bought a Subaru. And I hate Subarus. Now I hate Subarus. But at the time, it's like some of the most obtainable cars you can get. Because, I mean, you're growing up in times of the Group A, Group N's going forwards, and the factory Subaru team out in the WRC. So it was like the car to have. So he finally saved up enough money after busting his butt in America for a lot of years.
Driving trucks
To buy his first rally car. And the first rally he ever did was actually a national rally in Tennessee that was actually tarmac. And back in the day, you had flip phones that you couldn't silence, I guess, or something. And he stuffed it in his car, and it started ringing on the first stage, which threw off his mental, and he ended up rolling 7 times.
Oh.
Yeah, totaled the car, absolutely crushed it like a tin can. Saved up money again, bought a second car. I don't remember what his second was, but I think it was actually an Evo 9. I think that's when he switched from Subarus to the good old Evos, because Subarus blow up too much, but... That's besides the point. A lot of people are going to hate me for that, but
I mean, checks out. I've heard the story too many
checks
times.
out.
I think.
Right, we have this gentleman who races rally named KJ Miller, and if he touches your car, you can bet your Subaru motor's going to blow up. So shout out KJ.
Unless you pull a KJ, he's getting this. He's got a rally car. He just bought one. He saved up all his money from co-driving, worked his ass off, buys his first rally car. This is a rally car, and I'll send you guys the picture so we can overlay it if you're watching on YouTube. There's a rally car at Ojibwe Forest Rally, which is in Minnesota. If I was running it this year, this is the rally that you guys were going to come to. And there's a section of road that is surrounded by water on 2 sides. And it's like this S. And it's very thin. You have no room for error there. And this car, understeered, went straight off into the water. It turned into a submarine. And KJ gets the bright idea that his first rally car ever is going to be this one. And it shows
Which is
up
a
in the
really
motor's blown.
well-built car. You can't put aside the fact that it's not a great prepped car, but it was a fish tank for a little bit, right? So how much can you trust a submarine, right? That's supposed to be on land most of the time, but yeah.
So now he's getting a brand new motor from Vince built. Hopefully that
we
thing
sidetracked a little bit, but that's KJ Miller for you in 10 seconds. Anyway, so I saw my dad growing up in rally for those times and sort of hearing all the stories, always being at the events.
And how old were you at the time?
I was like 4.
So this is like
just a few years ago.
I was just a few years ago. That's fun. That's a good one. Yeah, don't let the beard fool you. I'm underage. That's a lie.
When you said, what did you say, 21?
Yeah, I'm 21.
I was like, there's no way. Like,
the joke is that Patrick had to shave his beard before his 4th grade basketball tournament.
I did. I had a mustache when I was in 4th grade. My nickname was Trunks, actually, believe it or not, because I was so hairy. I don't know why, but
we're from the same part of the
Trunks,
world, man. I get it.
So I was born in a hospital, as most people were, and I walked myself home. Right, and that's just how it worked.
But you're Polish, so you came out of there. You came out of the womb with a lit cigarette and a bottle of vodka.
I mean, some rumors
entire
that cannot
childhood.
be
That's how it goes.
cannot be confirmed nor denied. But anyways, I always was around events. I got my first 4-wheeler when I was 4 years old. I was mowing the lawn ever since I was 3 years old. I was on a tractor, believe it or not. I have a picture for proof. But eventually worked my way up into the karting scene when I was 9. But I was always too tall to really compete in the karts. That's what I tell myself. I was probably just too bad at it, but I was too tall and way too much. But yeah, I loved it with all my heart. I mean, I learned my racing line that way. Got out of that after a short few years, ran a couple of USPKS races, and then managed to compete in rally a few short years later when I got my my driver's permit. at 16. So
What's an interesting thing that people might not know about rally? To be a rally driver, you have to legally be able to drive on the roads.
yeah.
And rally cars have to be road legal.
Yes.
Which I always kind of thought was interesting when I got into it. I was like, I didn't know that, because we transit on public roads with traffic
Between stages.
Yeah. So from the end of one to the beginning of the next, you're like, driving around, there's a Corolla in front of you and you're just like, in a rally car, full gear and everything.
So you have some achievements as well in rally too, then.
Yeah, so when I did my first sort of campaign in rally, I started in what Alastair actually started, slower than Alastair's. I raced.
Yeah, you didn't have a turbo.
Yeah, I raced a naturally aspirated Ford Fiesta, and I managed to win the East Regional Championship. So I ran my first ever event, and I was like, all right, second place, not bad. Like, let's see how far we can take this. My second event, I got first place. I'm like, okay, this is lining up pretty cool. And eventually we managed to take that win, and it was a big confidence boost. But in between that, I had the bright idea, me and my team, to go from the slowest class out there, limited two-wheel drive, to the fastest class out there, open four-wheel drive, with Travis Pastrana, Ken Block, Brandon Semenuk all competing in. And Art actually developed this Mitsubishi Mirage, which I just used in this film that I shot with not too long ago in Kentucky.
Is that the one that we watched beforehand?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that car was actually a rally car before I turned it into a stunt car. And we developed that all in-house with Green APR, R&D, and engineers and all that cool stuff. So it's a proper race car. So
Thing is insane. It makes 550.
Right now it makes 550 as it sits, but typically it's around 350 with a 34 mil restrictor on a turbo, much smaller turbo. So and we managed to pick up a fourth place overall at one of the events. I'm like, this is awesome. I mean, that means I can hang with the fast boys. So what's next?
And who were the fast boys at the time?
Oh, Ken Block, Travis Pastrana, Brandon Semenuk. I'm like, sure, I was a couple minutes behind them.
Right.
And it was
But you were fourth place.
but I was fourth place.
Out of how many positions?
Out of, I don't know, how many cars started back then? Probably 80 cars.
So you were fastest of the slow guys.
Fastest of the slow guys.
All right,
I'd
perfect.
say, because,
Or slowest of the fast guys.
yeah, the way that rally works.
I think you were slowest of the fast guys.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, I like that better.
All right.
So, like, the way that American Rally is right now is that you have Subaru Motorsports USA and VSC, Vermont Sports Cars, that run the factory program for Subaru in America. And they invest tons and tons of money into those cars, and they're extremely fast. And as a privateer team, you can't really compete with them unless you throw loads and loads of money at it, which doesn't really make sense because the ROI on the series in general isn't as big as people make it out to be, but it's a great sport, so I wish it was. And yeah, I mean, I love rally with all my heart. It's always my first love, I guess, in a way. But
Don't tell Kelly.
Don't tell Kelly, yeah. So I went from that class to then what I have right there, the Hyundai RC2 car, which is a sort of European world spec car. It's sort of a class of its own. It's called RC2. And they're pretty much the same thing as this. It's a spec class. All the cars are the same. They're developed by their respective manufacturers. So that one's a Hyundai. There's Toyota now, Skoda, which is a European brand, Citroën, French brand, and who am I missing? I think it's all of them.
I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, of course. Ford, of course.
Oh, Ford, yeah.
Ford's the last one. So they're all sort of putting their own sort of R&D money into them. So they have their own patents and different ideas how to make a car work. So they're all a little bit different, but they have the same sort of rule sets they have to adhere to. And in America, we have a couple of competitors that run the car as well, so we can sort of stack up and see how we do. And then that season as well is sort of lined in our favor as well, with some top great drivers putting down great times and sort of seeing how we develop into that seat. And we managed to win that championship, the RC2 championship in 2023, as well as second overall. So it's cool.
So how does this differ from, when I say this, how does NitroCross differ from typical rallying? Again, you're talking to two guys who don't really watch
of course.
either
So,
that much yet.
Stage rally, I like to compare to the mountain biking, like downhill mountain biking of sort of motorsports. So you have stages, set roads.
Point A to point B.
Point A to point B based on the overall time, not sort of, you don't get let out at the same time. So there's a minute
not door to
gap.
door.
Yeah, minute, not door to door, yeah.
Unless you really make up a gap on someone.
Yeah.
Which can happen. You can pass people.
There's typically a minute gap between every car. And you just sort of go out there, set the best time you can, and then at the end of the weekend, which typically holds 16 stages and around 100 some stage miles, you sort of see who's the fastest out of the bunch.
So I've seen some of that stuff, and it looks like a blast. Like
It's
it
insanely
sounds
fun.
amazing. How important is your co-driver.
The more important than the driver.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Oh,
that's
100%.
what always is like seems insane to me. Like you are relying on them to make sure you're hitting your spots.
So his life is in my hands and my life is in his hands at the same time, because you really have to find someone you connect with to really understand, like, it doesn't matter if you hate each other. If this person could do his job really well and you do your job really well, you guys are going to do great.
Mm-hmm.
So for this past year, when I was competing for the rally championship, which unfortunately we fell just short, I had Alex Gelsomino in the front seat with me, who was Ken Block's co-driver for 17 years. And so arguably one of the best in the world. And now he's used to competing at the top level in the world. And somehow I managed to convince him, Alex, if you're watching this, sorry, convince him to take a seat and ride with me for a national season in a 197 horsepower front wheel drive Fiesta. Not at the top of the game. But your co-driver is so important. And to me, if I was really going to go for this championship, I wanted to go with the best. We wanted the kind of no holds barred approach and say, all right, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right and do it once. And, there is a difference in co-drivers. Alex is, when I say he's one of the best, it means he knows the rule book front to back, every single rule, every single loophole, every little detail about it, which is really important.
Expose yourself right there. What loopholes? There's none.
Oh yeah, that's right. There are no loopholes.
Interpretation of the rules.
Interpretation of the rules.
That's the gentleman's way.
Thank you.
And so, because you have to make sure you play by them, otherwise you get time penalties, and that's a big thing that you can't afford to do, and that's kind of in their hands. And then you also don't want a co-driver who's going to miss a note. You have a bad call from the co-driver's seat. As a driver, your blind faith commitment to what they're saying.
Right.
So if they call a right 4 and it's a left 4, something's going to go wrong. Extremely wrong. And in rallying, it's not like we have crash barriers like NASCAR, right? When we were at the NASCAR track in Richmond, I realized, okay, they have these walls and they have foam in between another wall. So it absorbs the impact. Trees don't do that.
We like to call ourselves professional tree huggers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hopefully not. You try to avoid those things.
That's the goal.
So it's not like when your wife is like, "Oh, you should have turned there."
Right.
Yeah.
No, if there was a
you
should have turned there, you might not make it out.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, and rally, even in Formula One terms, like you have drivers, some of the best drivers in the world. I think Kimi Räikkönen actually said this quote, that rally is the hardest sport in the world. It is really the hardest sport in the world. There's no two corners that are really the same. So, I mean,
you have to adapt.
You have to.
You really have to be adaptable.
Thinking on your feet is a must.
That's a different level. Like, I've always said that looks the hardest. Like, there's just...
it's no Isle of Man TT. Like, me as a rally driver, and I'm sure Patrick will say the same thing, there's always something else you look at and you go, those guys are crazy.
MotoGP.
Yeah, MotoGP, Isle of Man TT,
no.
like anything like that. I look at those guys and I'm like, you guys are insane. And then, but then again, there we are, like racing through the forests, and for what?
Tin cans.
For a champagne spray.
And a pat on the back.
And a pat on the back, right?
Well, especially when you look at the rallying of like the 70s, 80s, yeah.
Oh, like the Audi Group B era, the Michel Mouton.
When they had, tin cans for roll cages, right? Like before rules got serious.
Have you heard that story? Have you heard that story?
Cardboard.
So, Lancia, when they were rallying, they needed, everybody was trying to bend the rules there.
Interpret.
Yes.
But I would say they were doing it in a problematic way. Lancia needed their roll cage to be beefed up, and I don't remember the actual reason behind why they did it. I'm sure somebody will tell us in the comments. But they used paper towel roll cardboard and painted it and made it look like it was part of their roll cage. And
I think there's like a YouTube video on it. It's like 20 minutes long, like a documentary style sort of deal.
Yeah. It's an insane story.
Have either of you read Adrian Newey's How to Build a Car book yet?
No, I have not.
So he discusses, his entire career, right up until 2020 or whatever it is, talking about like Williams and the championships he's won with, like the one championship with McLaren. Yeah, yep, that's gonna be exciting. But he's talking about how the interpretation of the rules is like, how much do you want to put someone's life in danger? Right?
Yeah.
Because drivers will always want to be the absolute fastest, right? Just anything
by
that it
nature,
takes to
yeah,
win.
we do.
Anything that takes to win. But then, when you start doing cardboard roll cages, then it's like, all right,
That's a problem.
There's a fine line, but then you're leaving.
Well, do you want to win for now or do you want to win long term? That's the question.
But here's the other thing, right? Is like when you do something like that, you're putting somebody else might do it, and you're leaving valuable tenths or seconds on the table. So
Right.
I don't know. It is interesting to see how far motorsport has come in the last 20, 30 years.
Oh,
Well, as much
exponentially.
as we're competing out there inside of the cars, our teams are competing out there for better setup, for everything like that, right? So it's a full team competition. I know, like as drivers, we're the face of it, but there's so much that goes into it, and everybody's competing against the other teams, the other drivers, everything.
It's also really cool to also talk about. It's a different avenue, sort of, of motorsports, but the sim racing scene recently has exploded. I remember as a kid always running the simulators, seeing like the basic rig setups and none of the cool stuff like SimuCube nowadays and all the really direct drive wheels and how far that technology has come along.
And it's accessible.
And accessible, yeah, exactly. So like
Well, we
anyone,
both have rigs, so yeah,
Right.
it's yeah.
And you don't. I mean, we here have the full motion everything, right? You don't need it.
you really
You don't
don't.
need it.
No.
I actually find that practicing on that sometimes is worse than
I've
practicing on
heard
just a
that
regular
from people
sim.
before.
Yeah.
Because
We're not
sometimes
sold
it
on
doesn't
the
get the motion right, and it's too jarring. It's way more jarring than it would be in the actual car, and it really throws you off of your game.
And also, you don't feel the G forces of it. The G forces of it. So it's like a weird feeling where you have like the actions of it, but zero acceleration from it. So it's like you're sort of doing the corners, and you're like, I don't feel this in my stomach. What's going on here, right?
You don't have
It's
that
like,
opposite shift.
Yeah, it throws your stomach off a little bit because you feel it everywhere, right? I mean, when Niki Lauda said it in the Formula One movie that you feel everything in your ass, you really do, right? That's not lying.
You had to have an impeccable ass to be a racing driver.
That's for sure.
I feel that haptics are better. So like I have bass shakers on mine.
Okay.
So you can feel the rumble strip. You can kind of, I think that helps a lot. If your ass end starts to slide a little bit, it'll shake the rig a little bit.
So I actually tried a motion sim that was on pegs that sort of stand up on their own.
Yep.
And that they shift a little bit and not a lot. Mm-hmm. And like the compressions, as you said, but I thought that was even worse than the motion sim. I wish it was set up so you can try it.
What I think is what I've heard when we talked to Camille, who's down in this area here, they were working on seatbelt tensioners, which would be kind of a neat deal, right? So
Oh.
as you come into a corner, it'll pull you tight on your
that's
seatbelt.
Have you guys
But that's
been up there
the
or no?
thing is like for the hobbyist, that would make sense. For us,
Right.
if you can breathe, your belts aren't tight enough.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Especially
true.
in like rally. I mean, we take rally and safety in rally incredibly seriously.
You exhale and then yank on the belt even more. So you seriously, your belt
If you can
is
take a
bolted
full
in.
breath, something is wrong. Like
Yeah.
your harnesses are way too loose. Actually,
And we're back. Yeah, no, I mean, just sims have been cool. So have you guys been to Sim Racing Chicago yet or no?
No, I haven't had the opportunity, but there's actually a bunch that sort of popped up. I was going to open one, and then I found out there's like 7 other guys that did it already. So I'm like,
It's
late
a
to the
competitive
party.
space, or starting to be.
It
Yeah,
is.
it
It
is.
is. So there's actually a few, and I know most of the people that sort of own them. So it's cool to see them doing it, and it's like, it's awesome to see because I just recently got into iRacing. I was a huge hater of iRacing, especially their dirt models, and I still sort of am. But I'm like, all right.
there's room for improvement in iRacing if
yes,
you're watching this.
yes.
Does
I'm sorry.
iRacing watch your podcast?
I don't mean to bash iRacing, but the dirt model sort of sucks a little bit, and everyone
They're
has their
actually
own-
our main sponsor, so we're gonna cut all this out. Yeah.
Yeah, but like looking at the iRacing competitive scene and how sort of big it has gotten, like there's actual opportunities for drivers to show what they can do, right? So you jump on your sim, you put down a good time, you do a cool race, and you do great or even well, and there's always some eyes on you, so it's really cool.
Case in point here, the guy who won round 1 of NitroCross in our class, Mitchell DeJong, he took a break from racing in actual
this is
cars for the last 6 or 7 years, and he went out there, his first time back in an actual race car in 6 or 7 years, and won the first round. I mean, kicked ass at
Was that
the
the guy
first
in
round.
your class?
What's that?
That was the guy in your class?
Yes, he was in our class. Yeah, he won it, and it was an impressive drive. I mean, credit where credit's due. That kid has honed his skills in the sim and can do it. So for anybody who has a sim rig at home, that is the way to enter into this stuff. Get as good as you can on the sim, because people are always asking us like, "Oh, how do you get into this?" Well, get as good as you can on the sim, and then scrape together some funding to go into an actual race car once or twice and show what you're made of.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, maybe you don't have it. But try. Right?
And that's what I did before.
Because he did it.
Yeah, before I could get into a car as well. I mean, Mitchell's story is much better than mine, but I used to run sims every night that I can. I've like practically my whole high school career, I was running simulators between freshman and sophomore year.
I have to laugh at this. The dog's like in our case. I'm just want to pack him up and take him home now.
Oh,
He's like, guys, this is running a little long.
Oh, he's sitting down.
He's literally in the case. Oh shit.
Well, esports in general is growing. I mean,
That's
it's
funny.
huge, right? So I think the sim racing is going to be right there with it.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. 100%.
And it's really cool to see. I mean, like the opportunities nowadays are truly endless. And
Yeah.
like that story of that movie, that's what it came out from.
Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the next big jump in people ordering
Hey.
stuff too. Like,
Bubba.
I mean, you know, Dan and I, like, we got into, like, we were talking with Kamil over at PRI last year, which you guys are going to PRI this year, I think, right?
I think so. I think I'll be there.
This year?
Yeah, you want to go?
I was there actually in 22.
You guys
Okay.
going to SEMA?
Yeah,
Yeah.
last
You
year
guys
was
gonna
our
be in
first year
SEMA?
for SEMA
I
and
don't know,
PRI.
maybe.
Maybe I always end up at SEMA on a whim. I typically find out the night before that I'm supposed to be there. So hopefully, I always hope so. It's always cool to see your friends out there. And
Does
My dream-
NitroCross have a booth there?
They don't. No, but we
oh,
should.
PRI actually has a booth for American Rally Association.
I did see that. Isn't
Yeah.
like Travis doing like some sort of opening thing? I got an email about
Could be.
something with his name, but I don't know. It'd be again one of those exposure things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
who
I always
knows?
like going to those things too, and just seeing what's out there in the tech and how it evolves every year. My dream behind when I built my 911 was for it to go to SEMA, so I'm still working on that dream.
I
Racing
tried to make
takes-
that happen, but
I know.
just-
Maybe one day.
we had a
Maybe one
booth
day.
last year for Green APU at SEMA, and he was like, "I want my car there." And I pulled every
wrap
string
it
I
up.
could have, and he just didn't have his car ready. It was broken for the longest time ever. It was broken in his garage. I actually helped him tow it to his lake house so he could fix it.
Well,
And
it
he
is a
never did.
Porsche, right?
It is a
Yeah.
Porsche, and
So
it's
they-
a methanol injected Porsche as
Yeah.
well. So
with a supercharger.
with a supercharger.
Yeah,
P1X.
Crazy car.
Yeah, Pro Charger. In case anybody at home is into that.
Yeah, we have
It's a base model. It doesn't even have a backup camera, but it makes 500, so there's that. It's a 3.4 liter. And it sounds like a 4 liter.
So what's next for you guys, right? Like, I kind of asked this question earlier where it's, 1, 2, 5 years out. But again, you have 8 races left this season, right? Between the 4
Yep.
locations. I mean, how do you improve, right? Like, you guys got the first race,
Go
the
out there
jitters out
and
of the
win,
way.
right? Like,
Well, it's not that easy, right? So
it's not.
I'm hoping that after this podcast we can find a track to test at. So
Hmm.
shout out to everyone that does help us get a track, because that'll definitely help us a little bit. And
What kind of track do you need?
Do you know anybody in the motocross world that can get you hooked
See,
up
we
with
don't need
something
the
like that?
jumps.
see, we don't really want the jumps. We want the asphalt, because there's some more asphalt and tarmac this year. Where like I want to get better at the tarmac, and right,
Yeah,
if-
100%.
if we can get a
better at everything.
cool enough track to get some dirt
So you
there,
can't
too.
just get these out to like
Go-kart tracks would
Autobahn or...
Yeah,
You don't
I-
want a track with long straights. You need
Yeah.
more, you need tighter
Dude,
stuff.
I
So
got the
go-kart
perfect track,
tracks.
DCTC.
Well, I got one for you. We'll talk after this.
No,
All right, awesome.
see, okay, so we have a community college up in Minnesota, right? It's on the way up to, what is it, Ojibwe, I think it was?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's on the way. So literally people complain about the track eating through tires just because it's a little bit rougher than most asphalt tracks.
Well,
or whatever.
normally the asphalt that we use is generally like parking lot.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's pretty, and yeah, have you guys looked into like maybe doing like autocross events of some kind?
Oh, we could do that.
we could do that as well. I
That'd be
never thought.
again, I don't know what the correlation would be, but again, it's like that
Autocross.
kind of.
But those guys are crazy, and it would be a hell of a meme in the car community. Is like, oh yeah, we show up with our stacker and these like
Yeah.
purpose-built race cars just to get spanked
There's
by some
a
guy in his
place-
Miata.
We just went to a place. We rented the whole track out. You get 8 hours. You get it all to yourself. 10 of us guys were there. They literally unlock the gate and leave.
Oh.
It's a perfect track for what you want to do. It's a little bit rough.
I like
it was
that.
very affordable. Like I said, we'll talk.
How far from Chicago?
It's how far are you from Omaha?
8 hours.
Oh, 8 hours, yeah.
That's it.
But if you could do that on a weekend for practice, I think Dan could give you that suggestion. Otherwise, come
This
up to
one was
Minnesota.
great. It was rough on the GT500, but for what you guys are
where
doing
in
is
Omaha
perfect.
that is.
It's I-29 Speedway.
Okay.
It's like on the
Very-
border, right, of Iowa over
yeah,
there.
it's right outside Omaha.
Right.
It's in the middle of nowhere, Iowa. Literally in a corner. It's
Like
where have
Council
you heard of
Bluffs
Ice
area?
Cream Cruise or anything? That's where
Wrong scene.
1320 they throw an event there every year on the drag
Oh.
strip. But they have this
Yeah, we're into
they have
drag
this
racing.
lonely little forgotten road course. It's very tight, technical. It's got grass growing through the track.
That's the spot.
That's
That
where
is
we're
it.
going.
I'm telling you, it's great. It's for exactly what you
Let's go
need to
spend
do.
a week there, right? And just
Might as
do
well,
nothing but
right?
pass.
So hopefully.
We have 3 cars, so if we bin one, we just hop in the other
All
one.
right. Well, that's the
Knock
wrong
on wood, we don't,
That's the
but-
wrong mindset to go in.
You know, it's win it or bin it. That's what it has to be.
Yeah, there's a-
Rallycross, it has to be win it or bin it.
So my only stipulation is if you go there, I want to know when you're going there because I'm going to come watch. I want to ride. I want to.
One of them has a
that
set
car
seat.
has a second
Yeah, we
seat.
saw
Yeah.
Andrew Coley, our commentator for NitroCross, actually drives rallycross cars as well. So we lent him that car for the day to shoot a bit with it. So
Okay.
there's a second seat.
He actually did
There's-
surprisingly well.
yeah, there's a silly seat in that one. So yeah, jump
A
in.
silly seat? Is that what
Silly
you call
seat.
it?
Yes.
In
Yeah.
rally, that's what they call it.
All right.
The silly
The
seat.
co-driver sits in the silly seat.
So I want to take a second to talk about green APU, right? Because a good portion of our listeners even are, in a transportation industry. Because think about it, if you're in a semi all day, you are literally listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
Like people will go through our entire podcast in like weeks. So tell us a little bit about green APU.
Yeah, so Green APU is a auxiliary power unit for your semi truck. So it's sort of, everyone who's in the trucking industry knows what an APU is, especially nowadays with diesel costs being so high. And now the focus shifting onto idle hours on units instead of sort of the mileage. So our whole goal is to make sure you keep every dollar in your pocket. And whether that's the idling aspect of it, driver comfort, reduction in wear and tear, keeping your units on the road, and that's extremely important to us. And we're one of the best on the markets. So that's it.
One of,
That's
no, you
awesome.
are the best
No,
on the market.
we are the best on the markets.
Own it.
And I
Own
have
it.
to bring that up too, because again, I used to work in the freight industry, so I think there's like a million trucks on the road or whatever, workers in the industry. So it's
Yeah.
like,
And they could all use APUs.
well, everybody knows somebody, right? That's in the industry. So I just
Yeah.
figured I might as well, it's literally on all the cars behind us. It makes sense
Yeah.
to give a shout
Well,
out.
and that's
This
what
is-
allows us to
appreciate
keep
that.
racing.
Yeah.
Right? Without APUs, we don't race.
And the funny thing is that racing is in every APU we manufacture. I mean, like from every component, it's been tested and through and throughout, really, to make sure it can withstand, everyday.
You have to have
stipulations.
high standards on these race cars when
Yeah.
you need to go out and run them for 150 miles, especially in rally, 150 miles, 200 miles in a weekend, and run them at 100%. So that kind of philosophy trickles into
Yeah.
the manufacturing side of the APUs.
The same engineers that manufacture our cars and develop them, they do the same for APU.
Well, you guys walked us through your facility there. That's not a slouch operation you guys got going on. You're not just slapping these together in some dark warehouse either. That's very
Yeah, and
impressive over there.
we haven't even made it to our CNC shop, which we take great pride in.
We'll take you guys there after this.
Shout out Haas, they make great machines. So we really put a lot of time and effort and development in each APU that are on the market. So
And we also have a race team, which is cool.
we have a race team, which is pretty cool. And
So if you like racing and you're a trucker, like this is the spot for you, right? Watch
Yeah.
us race, with your APU charging your phone.
well, especially if you're a trucker, you have that side TV all the time. We know you're watching Netflix
Yeah.
in there, boys. Come on.
Yeah. So the whole way that Green APU came to be is we used to own a trucking company, Art Logistics, named after Art. He got so pissed off at every APU on the market, he's like, I'm going to do it myself. So that's how we came to be founded.
If you want something done right, do it yourself.
That's how the
you
best
do
things are
yourself.
made.
So
Yeah.
we didn't go
Yeah.
national until a couple of years ago, and people have been loving our product ever since. I mean, we're a simple design. You can get all the parts you need to fix it at any Napa, AutoZone, any automotive store. We use automotive components in every APU. We use a single serpentine belt where you have less maintenance. I think now, I don't want to be mistaken, but we're either at 1,000 or 2,000 hours for your first service, which is one of the leading in the markets right now. So, that's the stuff that matters to all the trucking guys. So that's awesome.
So we're kind of getting towards like that back half of the episode here, but is there anything else about the cars that are that we didn't see yet that's just super cool? Because obviously, again, this is so different from my Golf GTI. So like, I just,
I think inherently just being, well, the amount of power they are, but the rarity in a rear mid-engine all-wheel drive system with a sequential is so odd, right?
Anti-lag, paddle shifts, the WRC style paddle shifts.
Maybe we can cut in some clips so like
So
the
you
folks
guys
at
can
home
really-
can-
for the
can hear
highlights
the
for sure.
sound.
We'll see
Yeah.
about the full episode.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens there. Wait for the highlights. You'll see.
Yeah.
Damn it! I had a question. I just lost it. I hate that. Worst part finally happened. What do you guys run for a sequential in there? Do you have any idea?
Sort of.
Sadev, yeah.
Sort of.
Okay.
Yep, 6-speed.
Gotcha.
They're like really funky, long. They have the differential inside of them, so it's like pretty complicated to set up. And
This year, though, they're
They're tanks.
electronic hydraulic controlled. Last year it was you really had to muscle it. But this year we have one paddle shifter. So you pull in to shift up and you push down to shift down.
You liking that so far?
It's honestly more intuitive than you'd think.
Yeah.
You'd go, when I was thinking about it, I'm like, oh, that's going to be tough to learn. Every time I've ever had a paddle shifter, it's, 1 and 2. But I hopped in the car for the first time and didn't even think about it once. It was just, there. Like, oh, I need to push that to shift down. Although I did have a struggle, and for the folks on YouTube, I'll send you guys the picture. I broke, it's a carbon fiber paddle. And in one of the sessions this weekend, one of my first sessions, it snapped off in my hand.
Yeah.
And so I was like about to pull off, and I'm like, I need this seat time. I need this practice. And so I realized I could just kind of smack the little controller, like that it actually, the toggle switch, and it would work. And so we ended up doing that. Made it around.
It's so weird seeing a car with a sequential that doesn't have a parachute. That's what I'm just used to. Because that was my first time in a car with a sequential. Was a twin turbo Viper making 2,000 horse. And it's got a parachute on the back.
I want one of those.
Oh, who doesn't? Nth Moto Vipers are on top.
So what are you guys? So you have your Porsche. Are you driving some fun stuff on the street though too? When you're not in here, are you guys?
No, I find as I get older and some say wiser. As I get older and some say wiser, I tend to prefer driving more civil on the roads. This guy thinks differently, but
almost every person that we've met that races competitively, they get much more civil on the road once they get into real racing.
I've noticed that a lot of people do, but I don't know. I must be an outlier because I have a lot. Like my brother, he's also a racing driver. He has gotten much more civil on the road, and to me, it's not that like it's not that I'm not civil on the road, but racing hasn't ruined being a car guy for me in the street car sense. And I find that a lot of people, they get into racing and all of a sudden like street cars don't matter to them. I'm like, I still want to drive something that looks sick.
Maybe
something that sounds cool. Like
maybe that is a Leo thing because I feel like you fall in that camp too.
Well, you and I are outliers in the regard that we're going around the country. We're talking to every single type of motorsport out there.
That's true.
So we're kind of like we had an off-road guy last episode.
Okay.
We know I keep saying we. I know nothing about off-road. We were talking about off-road Cayennes and old Toyotas.
Oh, those things are sweet.
Yeah. So, no, I'm really excited to watch this sport grow. Again, it was really fun to watch. Oh, I forgot to say, the footage is awesome. Like you have
the way they film it,
the crazy fast drone just ripping around it. It's really cool. Like it's different. It's not like F1's got helicopters, okay, but you guys got these drones that have this like crazy different. It's different. It's fast.
Well, because you can get so for the folks at home, NitroCross when we stream live and free on Rumble. They pound that slogan into us. We stream off of FPV drones that can fly as fast as the cars can drive. So we have the ability to, in the live stream, have a camera live action right up on the bumper of a car, just above it or just off it.
Coolest thing ever.
And it's awesome. So you feel like when and this is a high contact sport.
I know.
When those cars make contact, you feel like you're there. And you're like, I felt that crash through the TV.
I saw a couple of those, like when you get bumper to bumper. I think it was in which class are the Hornets in again?
In the Group E.
Group E?
Yeah, the electric
When I
cars.
saw them touch, I'm like, oh, that crumpled.
That was
it's close.
This last weekend, which you watched, there was a lot of action in the Group E finals. It was insane. Not a single one of those cars came off track unscathed.
Yeah, I definitely felt as someone coming from watching Formula One, it was a little confusing at first. I started getting the hang of it.
We're used to like one long race, and we're not that way, right? We're 6 laps. That's our final race is 6 laps. But you have 4 laps of qualifying, 4 laps of semifinals, 4 laps of heats, 4 laps of
I wish there was like, and maybe there wasn't, maybe I just missed it. I wish there was like a up next or like a schedule of some kind.
Yeah.
I might have missed it, but it was kind of cool. Like that's
they
one of
do
those
that
things.
once at the beginning of the broadcast. But
right, and if you're just somebody like me who's coming in halfway
it's good to
through,
know because I'll pass that along to the media team.
Oh, dude, you want somebody to tear your sport apart? You're gonna pick again. You're trying to market to people who don't know it, right? It's cool for the people that know it, but if you're trying to again, I had no idea what was. I'm like, oh wait, we're
and you're a car guy. You are our clientele, right?
Right. So I am curious. I will tear it apart next time I watch. We'll see what we got. But
or
take notes and
just
let me know.
come to Salt Lake City and do it in person, right? Buy your tickets now at nitrocrossracing.com.
It was a good crowd, by the way. On what it looked like on Rumble when I was watching it, it was a pretty decent
Richmond's
crowd.
a big stadium to fill.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of people.
That was a good looking crowd. Yeah,
it was cool.
I mean, Salt Lake City,
Vegas
Phoenix.
is
Salt Lake City, Phoenix, and Los Angeles last year sold out at full capacity.
Yeah, Vegas.
That's
too.
badass.
We
Vegas
sold out
too.
Vegas.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
all of them sold out.
Both nights in Vegas. Vegas was insane. They had everybody packed into these grandstands because Vegas was one of those races. It wasn't like Richmond where there was, all the infrastructure there, right? We were basically in an empty lot, right where Formula One was.
Yep.
So we brought in the bleachers, we brought in all that stuff, and they had people packed onto those stands. I remember coming off of the track and just looking up and be like,
Oh, yeah.
it was just this humbling moment. Like, all those people are here to watch this. Like, it was insane.
It's the city of entertainment, man.
It
Yeah.
was, yeah. Our finale is there this year again, so.
Yeah,
It's cool. You guys got to come out to that race. It's sweet.
Yeah, well, me and Dan are hoping to come out to the Miami one. We'll talk a little
Miami
bit
is
about that,
going to be killer.
but we just we have a lot of plans for this season, so it's gonna be really cool. But I think it might be time to pop to usual 3, Dan.
You think so?
I think so, unless you
Usual?
got some more questions.
No. I mean, I'm sure there's tons, but yeah.
Well,
this
that's
is,
why we do the Minnesota goodbye at the end. Everybody
yeah.
sticks around for Minnesota goodbye. It's like a Marvel movie. You wait till after the credits.
Yeah, watch out for deer
the
on your way
Minnesota
home.
goodbye. What's
Yeah.
Is that the same as the Midwest goodbye, where everyone just slaps their knees and they're like, "All
Yeah,
right,
yep.
guys, time to wrap this."
No,
up."
it's
Yeah,
like-
but then you
but
talk
then-
for another hour afterwards.
okay, okay.
Yeah,
And then it's
What is-
tell your folks I says hi.
Yeah. So what's the longest podcast you guys have done?
3 hours and 20-something minutes.
Ooh,
I
I'm
think.
Guys, we're not even there yet.
Yeah, we're
Let's
not
go.
even there yet.
No.
I think
We
we're-
put a hard cap of like 2 hours, unless it's like something like really, really, like we really need to discuss. But it's just, it starts getting a little
repetitive. Yeah.
Not repetitive. It's just, it's so long, and like it's like, it'd be better to do a round 2, right?
Yeah.
Let some, it's just.
We could do a round 2 at a race.
I will be here monthly, guys. We'll figure it out.
Then we'll put you in a car.
We come see you in Miami, which is when it's cold up here. We'll do a round 2 for sure.
We'll pull some time. We can do a
Yeah.
podcast episode in the trailer.
Yeah.
And then we'll be able to tell you live how an event is going.
Yeah.
That's the best part. Like when we were down at Texas 2K, we only got 1 episode in, unfortunately, but it's kind of cool seeing that like before, middle, and after, depending on which competitors you're talking to.
Yeah.
It's awesome being on
Well, in
site.
racing, you have high highs, low lows, right? And
Oh yeah, you guys are crazy for doing that. Your dopamine levels just got to be doing this all the time, or serotonin.
well, it's like
or
I
whatever.
had one of the best laps of my life, and 20 minutes later, I had one of the most heartbreaking laps of my life.
Yeah.
This last weekend, it was in the last chance qualifier, coming through the last corner, and I'm like, I had a good lead on everybody. The session before had one of the best laps. I found race pace finally, and then I go into the last chance qualifier, and on the last corner, I spun the car. Just spun out, and I lost. I watched the other 2 cars that I was racing at sail by and just go, that's it. Right? That was my weekend. That was
Yeah.
Sunday, and it was my last chance to make it into the final. It didn't happen for us, right? So I was at the highest, down at the lowest, just like that. I mean, it was, but that's what makes it cool. There's a good story there. So a live podcast like at an event would be really cool.
That would be awesome if we could set something up. That again, just kind of seeing that overall experience. Hi, Pooch. Welcome back.
Well, then everything's
Welcome back
fresh,
to the
right?
show. Come
You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a few days to get over that, but it still irks me when it's, if you'd have interviewed me like right after that happened.
We usually
told you
try
like
not
it
to interview
is.
people right after because, like, especially at events where
You
there's
gotta cool down.
crashes or cars
Yeah.
that don't perform, people aren't very excited to be on a 2-hour episode if some stuff goes wrong.
See, I would be happy to do that. You call me up, you say, let's
I'll bring a
run
microphone
another
up to your
one.
face.
I'm there.
Well, sweet. Let's do the usual 3, and then we'll do a Minnesota goodbye.
All right,
right.
sounds good. All right, so at the end of every episode, we like to ask our guests to pick 3 cars. You have to pick a daily driver, a show car, and a track car. You have an unlimited budget. You can swap anything in there, whatever you want. What are you picking?
Wow, I'm a little slow in the head. Can you one more time? What are the 3?
Yeah, okay. So daily driver, track car, and a show car.
Daily driver, track car, show car. Got it. You want to go first?
Yeah, I've got them.
All right.
Okay, so the daily driver, and keep in mind, folks, I'm a Porsche guy through and through. So if you couldn't tell by what I'm about to say, the daily driver is a 911, probably a Turbo S because they have back seats. GT3s don't. And before
call
everybody
those
in the
back
comments
seats?
before everybody in the comments goes, you can't daily drive a 911. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I have a rear-wheel drive 911. It's a 7-speed manual. It's got 70,000 miles on it. And as Jerry Seinfeld once said, he who gets to heaven and has the lowest mileage Porsche loses. So absolutely. I moved into college, and I understand this is a rare scenario. I moved into college in a 911. Everything I needed for my dorm room was in a 911. It fits. It can be a daily driver. So that's the daily. The show car is a RWB, 993 RWB. I've always wanted one. I know they're getting a lot more popular now, and they have in recent years. I've wanted them since I was a kid. Just love them. And then the track car's got to be a 935.
You said 935?
935.
Simpler than that.
Yeah, the new one.
Okay.
The new one. The one based on the GT2.
Okay. Gotcha.
I mean, I'd like the old one too because it's just a rad
I don't know,
car.
you gotta
but
pick one now.
If it was just to track it, I'd have to have the new one, go with the newer technology.
Fair enough.
Yeah, those are the three. All Porsches.
Sweet. All right, you got enough time to figure it out?
Yeah, I think so. I think for the daily driver, I'm gonna be more on the practical side of things.
Whoa, more practical. That's perfectly practical.
Yeah, good old
Put a ski box on a 911.
Good old X3M. I mean, you got the speed, comfort, space. You gotta think this through a little bit. All right. You want to pull some jet skis? X3M. Goddamn it.
Oh, you could do it with a 911. 100%.
I've seen ski
all
boxes
right.
and jet skis. Okay.
No, I'd put a jet ski on the back of my 911.
Get one of those U-Haul hitches. He'll be fine.
Actually, matter of fact, we should do this.
I guess so. I mean,
That'd be a
factor
great
cap.
marketing campaign.
Factor cap.
At SEMA, we put a hitch on my 911, bring it out there with jet skis on it.
You just discovered a whole new market.
They only got one lake out there, and it's drying up. So,
That is true.
although
That
we
is
saw
true.
snowmobiles at SEMA, they had them like in the back of trucks and
That's
stuff there last
interesting.
time. Yeah.
Sports car has to be an Evo 9. My favorite car ever. Grew up in them, so I absolutely adore the Evo 9s.
Would it
Can
be
I
like
add
a
a-
rally spec or something?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
I was gonna do a track spec, just good old.
You have a track car option here.
That is your track car.
Oh, that is the
right?
track
that is
car.
my track car.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
And then what? My sports car, my show car.
Show
Yeah,
car.
show car.
Yeah.
It's got to be Ken Block's Unicorn. That car is.
So you would have that
insane.
as a show car and not as a track car?
Yeah, are you kidding me? I wouldn't.
Show cars could be used as
Yeah,
a
you
track
wouldn't want to
car.
fuck that one up.
I
right?
wouldn't want to fuck that
Oh,
one up.
I
Are you
feel
kidding me?
like
I
that
can't
would just
afford
be an
that.
injustice.
Which
right?
version?
Which version of the Unicorn? Gymkhana 7? Yeah. That one.
Nice.
What about you guys?
No. We've done this. You go back to our episodes and listen to it.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
shit.
so now
They think they're the
revamp.
hosts now.
Now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm taking over.
All
This
right.
is look at me, my podcast now. Okay,
Daily driver.
give me something that you haven't said before.
I can't. Super Baja, Shelby Super Baja, 6.7,
rad.
Super Duty. Gotta be that because I can still pull.
You're
a
telling me
race
your
trailer.
track car wouldn't be a NitroCross car?
After seeing them,
I'm a road course guy.
That's just because
man.
we haven't gotten you in one of these yet.
Yeah. When you're
We'll put you in the silly
when you're
seat.
Road America and you're coming 180 miles an hour into that turn
fair.
one,
Yep.
like that's
You're looking at that
pretty good.
access road going, I got to brake.
Yeah. Right before you hit the wall.
yeah.
I don't know. Ford GT, the second
Big
gen.
Ford
Yeah.
guys, huh?
Oh, he's
I'm-
the Ford guy.
You gotta understand. When you told me there was a 2.3 in this, I got real giddy.
I get that. Everybody
Yeah.
gives me hate for being a Ford guy. Like trucks, I like an F-150, 253.
Well, you like
54.
trucks that work. I mean, they just gotta,
See,
are you
okay,
talking
see, I
about?
don't get that controversial with it, right? I like the way they look. That's it. That does enough for me. All the performance specs on every truck on the market right now, relatively the same. That's gonna piss people off. They just look better.
Yeah.
Anyway, go on. Ford guy. I like that.
I don't know. Show car, some old, muscly, something from Ford. I think I said Trino before. I don't know.
Give me
Going all
something
over the
new.
place.
Some of the folks at home haven't heard. They're like, I didn't know that about you. You go.
They've done 104 episodes.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I've only been around for half. Shout out to Sean.
You
he
have,
came out-
Patrick's got a new show car coming in.
Me?
Yeah, tell him about that.
Oh yeah, my Fiat 126P. You
And we'll
guys
put
know
a
what that
picture on
is?
screen.
You guys know what that is? I
No.
gotta show you a picture now.
It's Tiffany blue.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just got
it's
the
gorgeous.
interior done.
Do a
to
Maybach
reflect,
interior.
a Maybach. So I told the guys that were doing the car, I want this thing to look incredible. I don't know.
This is a true Minnesota or Wisconsin goodbye because we just pulled in another story. Patrick goes to Poland and just out of the blue sends me a photo of this Fiat. And it's on the back of a van that says green APU. And I'm like, no way, you just bought that thing. Like, no way. Whose Fiat is he pulling? And he's like, no, I just bought it.
This is the first car I ever learned how to drive stick on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It is tiny,
So we'll
600
send that to you
cc.
guys.
So have you
have
been
it.
to Poland then?
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
And now it's coming home. It's coming back here.
I'm bringing it back here. It's coming home. I gotta show the interior because that's what's really in my heart.
Did you grow up stateside then?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was born and grew up in the States.
Gotcha. I was born stateside as well, yeah, because my parents were, whatever. So
Yeah,
I
me
get it,
too.
yeah. That's just me trying to relate, just
So
whatever.
this is the interior I picked to complement my
That's badass.
my light blue color. Yeah, and so this is the first car I bought when I didn't buy it, right? But I drove this car, not on the roads, back roads, for $300 US.
In Mexico.
$300 US. I bought a car like this.
That's awesome.
Now they're collector items, so it's harder and harder to get them. But I had to get one. This is in my heart.
That's like me wanting a Yugo. I'd love nothing more than to have a Yugo.
Yeah.
Oh. No thanks.
For me, it's a Mark II Golf. That's on my bucket list.
Yeah.
I mean,
Those
they
are
just look
cool.
so cool.
Great
What do you
car.
think about the Scirocco's?
Oh, I want one.
Yeah, they're sweet. That was my dad's first car.
Yeah, that was my dad's
Scirocco.
dream car at some point, and he was a kid too. So, yeah,
Those things are sweet. I'd love to have a rally Scirocco.
yeah,
That'd be a
sweet.
car.
Well, where can people find you guys? No
At
home
NitroCross events, go to nitrocrossracing.com.
Beyond that, say somebody watched this and they're like, wow, I really like him. I want to follow him.
Where can we see
Stalker
this
much,
video you
but-
just posted?
Yeah.
Oh, are we going to talk about this video now?
Yeah, we're talking about the video.
Shoot, today's actually the debut day, the debut of my little film that I
It's
made.
a few
with-
hours old now.
It's a few hours old now. I'm afraid to open my phone and see what the comments are because I have a feeling it's going to be not very well. But
Well, the internet's such a loving place. I don't
it
know
is a
why
very
you would
loving
be
place.
scared.
And honestly, I'm not
Yeah.
taking it too hard because it's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time. And it was heavily inspired by Mr. Ken Block and growing.
And let me tell you, you killed it.
Well, thank you. It's my first
Fucking
time.
killed it.
I
It's
don't
insane.
nearly have the budget to pull off something that I would blow the socks off people, right? But at the same time, it's something that I put a lot of work in and had a great team to make happen. So I'm trying to tread lightly because the guy who filmed it said not to say too much because he doesn't know what to say yet about it. It's too fresh to sort of read how it's looking, but
It's a great video. You guys should go check it out.
Yeah, so
you're a little hard on yourself after watching that. It was pretty cool. Go
Thank
check
you.
it out. What's the YouTube channel name?
just my first and last name, so Patrick Gruszka on YouTube. You can check out all the videos from NitroCross events as well as Rally back in the day, and this new film that I just created for myself and for my childhood self. So
Yeah.
it meant
No,
a
definitely
lot to
check
me.
it out. That's one of those things where you look to your 10-year-old self, be like, I did that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you should take that with.
I'm gonna be the cool uncle at the cookout who's single and alone in the corner and be like, yeah, you see that? I made that.
I used to
Yeah.
do cool stuff in
I
cars
used to
back in the day.
do cool stuff.
when EVs take over. That's the video you'll show.
Yeah, when we're all getting piloted around in spaceships to
Yeah.
everywhere we go and can't control a car anymore, which sadly is looking more and more like it. But, there's a few of us still left in the deserts and some metro cities that love gasoline smells and ALS popping in your ear, so I'm happy.
How about you?
You can find me on Instagram, Alastair.Scully. It's a tough one to spell, so maybe.
Oh, trust me, I have it wrong in my phone.
Oh, everybody does.
You should talk about your middle name.
Yeah, that's even worse. It's Welsh, and they like to put vowels next to vowels. And so yeah, Instagram, Alastair.Scully.
Where can people find NitroCross to watch?
NitroCross live and free on Rumble, or nitrocrossracing.com to get your tickets. Come see us. Come say hi. NitroCross is an immersive experience. So if you're there, feel free to stop by our paddock. Come say hi.
Better yet, what about the
Come talk
dates
to us. Come hang
and
out.
locations as well?
Oh, you're asking a bit much now. I can tell you location.
Oh, I got that. I've got that on lock.
You're
You
gonna
keep
put-
talking. I'll pull
yeah,
that
we'll
up,
be in
Jamie.
Salt Lake City next, and from there we go to Phoenix, Arizona, Miami, Florida, and ending it all off at the season finale in Las Vegas,
So
Nevada.
rounds 3 and 4, Salt Lake City, October 5th and 6th of 2024. Rounds 5 and 6 are in Phoenix, Arizona, November 15th and 16th of 2024. Miami, round 7 and 8, are January 11th and 12th of 2025. And our finale in Vegas, that's the one you don't want to miss, March 1st and 2nd.
He's saying you want to miss the others.
I don't know that you want to miss the others, but Vegas
We got to work
is-
on your PR, bro.
Yeah.
I am my PR guy, which is a problem. So yeah, Vegas, Vegas is going to be insane. Miami's going to be insane. Miami's a new event for us.
Salt Lake's going to be insane. Phoenix, Arizona is going to be insane. And if you can't be there, tune in live and free on Rumble.
Yeah. And then I think it was a good
Wait,
coverage.
it's this now?
Yeah.
All right.
And
then,
tell your folks I says hi. Watch out for deer on your way home.
Yeah.
And then Dan?
You can find us at Gunna Garage. We're gonna try and get more content, but I'm too busy. Sorry. If you wanna be
He's
bored,
busy
go
doing
check
this.
us
He's
out.
hanging out with NitroCross drivers.
That's true. I'm doing this.
with 2 N's. And
Yeah,
then
2 N's.
and as for me, you guys are just deep into the podcast. Thank you so much. Thank you, Patrick, Alastair, for coming on. I'm glad
Thanks
we
for
finally
having
made
us,
this happen.
man. It's been really fun. We got to do it again at an event.
Yeah, man, this was awesome. Please be sure to check out NitroCross. This is really fun. I'm going to look around these cars a little bit more.
Yeah,
and for everybody else, be sure to check us out on the next episode.
Where
See you all
can
next
we
time.
find Milo?
Oh, where can we find Milo?
Milo does need an Instagram account.
Milo doesn't even know what's going on right now. He's like, guys, this is past my bedtime.
Milo, just like Patrick and I, is working with a few brain cells trying to rub them together and make
Dude,
fire,
he looks
so.
like he just took an edible and is watching Pineapple Express.
He looks like he's going through it. Did you sniff too much of what's the stuff they use for the fiberglass?
Well, we've been working. Yeah, we've been working with fiberglass and epoxy in here. You might be a little loopy.
That'll
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah,
and on
you
that
good?
note, we will see y'all next time.